And now the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. I don't know if this is actually the end, but we're gonna play, of this I'm certain. What were we doing? I do not know. All I know is that I'm Brand. Okay, it's done. Bit's over. Bit's over. We failed. We failed the bit. How are y'all doing this week? What's up? Welcome to what is potentially the final episode of Citizen Sleeper. At least until we get Citizen Sleeper 2, I suppose, which is I don't remember. I don't remember when. I'm trying to remember. I think we had, quote-unquote, one final job. You know what, real quick? Let's turn in this crap. Immediately, let's turn in the flux data that we were supposed to collect. 1, 2, 3. Easy peasy. You watch as Peak works on the flux data, the nodes unfolding like flowers now, giving in to Peak's increasingly sophisticated decoding protocols. Seeing data like this, as an image on a screen, is an almost unrecognizable representation to you. It is nothing like swimming among nodes and threads. Despite this, Peak has proven themselves to be more than able to handle these complex data structures, even through this limited representational paradigm. The bay door hisses, interrupting your flow of thoughts. You turn and see Esh entering. Esh! She looks up and meets your eye, but doesn't respond. Esh stalks into the bay, head down. She looks tired and not in a mood to talk. How's the weapon hunt? Peak asks, without turning from the screen. Slow. Unsuccessful. Tedious. Esh slams a bag down on a crate and hops to sit on it. You still unpicking balls of yarn? With the sleeper's help, Peak smiles. They brought me some good stuff this cycle. Maybe they could help you find the weapons you were smuggling. Sorry if I go muted every now and then. It's an allergy day. Sorry. It's clear that Esh doesn't appreciate Peak's tone. Still looking? Uh-huh, Esh replies. And whoever took them better be making the most of their rapidly shortening lifespan right now. Esh, Peak cuts in without looking away from the console. We talked about this. This is my mistake, Peak, and I'll fix it how I want. Esh folds her arms. I know one of the factions of the flotilla has taken them. I just need to find out. Peak holds up a hand. Shh! They lean in towards the screen. Son of a... Oh no. They hid it in the wake of the wave, Peak is whispering to themselves. It's alive. They lean back in their chair. Esh crosses over to look at the screen. Alive? Well, it's growing. It's processing. It's quietly working away in the dark. Look! You cross over to the screen and stand beside Esh. In it you can see that Peak has all 4 nodes decoded, and the pattern of shadows from inside them sit on the screen like dark stains. Then you notice it, the movement. The thin threads cross from one stain to another. As you watch, you notice that the movement only ever happens in your peripheral vision, as if this shadow, knows it's being watched. This is how the other flux nodes appeared. Peak rubs their eyes. They weren't fluxed by the wave, they were corrupted after the fact. This shadow that entered in the wake of the wave, it corrupted them. But it made the corruption look like the result of the flux. It's a sleight of hand. Peak runs a hand through their hair. The flux wave is so massive, so complex, that it opens up the systems to be attacked. As it reconfigures exposed systems, this shadow is broadcast implanted inside. The wave from the KAN channel, it is a brute force wave hitting every system in Helion. Once the systems are vulnerable, Peak looks pale, their eyes reflect the screens. The flux isn't what's attacking the systems, it is the siege weapon, a Trojan horse. Then this thing takes over. Peak sits back in their chair. And it's already on the eye. Wait. Esh rubs her forehead. You're telling me there's a KAN channel in this system? Shit, Peak isn't listening. This is bad. We have to take this to someone. Peak looks desperately at you. Helene, is that wise? Esh cuts in. Haven't exactly made good decisions lately. They are the station administrators, Esh. Peak is desperate. They need to know. The argument rages between them, and as you watch them shouting, you feel sick. After a while, they stop, running out of things to say. An unsettling silence descends on the bay. I need more time, Peak says quietly. I need to look at solutions, try to build a case, collate the evidence. We messed this up. They look down at their hands. Esh goes to speak and then thinks better of it. Not a word, Sleeper. Peak meets your eye. Don't tell anyone until they are ready. They sigh. With the tension among the refugees, Saul won't be ready to hear this, and Helen and Havenage are still mired in some kind of crisis. We tell Havenage they are likely to react badly, and even with the flotilla stabilized, Sol is also not going to react well to this. I need time to build a case. You are too twisted up in this, Peak, Esh says quietly. This is not our place. We don't owe... Stop, Esh. Peak slumps in their chair. Stop. You leave them like that, exhausted and troubled, and head back out into the Pilgrim Seed. When you close your eyes, you think of those shadows, that movement at the edge of your vision. Something dark, growing in the station like a parasite. You feel sick. Your vision blurs. What comes next? You stop in a corridor and take a breath, putting a hand on a rumbling metal wall. For now, the eye keeps spinning. For now. Well, now what? Okay, we're waiting on that. I guess we gotta wait... How many cycles? 2 cycles. He's gathering evidence. That's good, that's good. We have stabilizer. Do we need... Is it a... growing period right now? We are germinating right now. Okay, let's collect some spores. That feels important right now. I'm fine with a neutral. Let's grow some spores. I wish it would let me put them all in at once here. So... I think my problem is that I can completely see where Ash is coming from, right? Like, obviously they've been hurt before, and it's hard to trust people, especially, like, people who run a place like this when, you know, it's... Are we going to... I think we're intuiting +2. I think that's what we're holding out for. It's hard to trust someone, though. Like, especially in a situation like this. Let's see if we can find any more of those new nodes. I don't see any more. I mean, that's a good thing. Let's also... Can we buy any more scrap? No, we're out of scrap. Let's go up and see what's going on in the other side of things. Bliss. Ooh, that's a good reroll. When you enter the bay, it is weirdly quiet. Moritz must be out on some errand, and maybe Bliss is prepping the kit? Sleeper. Ankita is drifting at one side of the bay. You missed her completely when you came in. What the What? What are you doing here? The idea of not seeing Ankita when you entered a room would have seemed unlikely to you several cycles ago, but seeing her without her armor, she seems smaller. Less imposing. Ankita? She nods and kicks off from the wall, drifting closer. So what is this, she asks. Come to avenge Ashton or a sleeper? Or just looking for another payout? Her anger is familiar, but quieter than before, restrained. Don't start. Start what? You are the one following me up here. She looks away, and you can tell her anger isn't directed at you in particular. It radiates off her like fire. You better be ready to sign, comes a shout from the bay entrance, because I've got my best repair tech coming up here especially, and they are going to... Bliss glides in and suddenly stops herself when she sees you and Ankita standing off. Oh, Sleeper, you're already here. Miss Cassetta, this is the tech I was telling you about. Best on the... She stops, looking between the two of you. Wait, do you two know each other? You and Ankita look at each other. We work together. Bliss squints at you both before continuing. Bliss produces a slate. Now, Miss Cassetta, if you'd like to sign our damage waiver here, we can start on the decommissioning. She looks at you. My tech here is eager to get started, as am I. Ankita scrawls her signature across the slate. Thank you. Bliss pauses. And everything is okay with the special payment terms we discussed? She gives Ankita a strange smile. All fine, says Ankita, giving you another hard look. Then she kicks off and drifts to the entrance. I'll be in the gimbal, she says, and leaves. Special payment terms? She looks over her glasses at you. Look, Sleeper, there's something I have to tell you. She glances around again. What is she so nervous about? This isn't exactly a typical job. Miss Cassetta, Ankita, she gives you a knowing look, doesn't have the chits to pay us, so we've made a special agreement. She sighs. I'm leaving. Leaving? Keep it down. I haven't told Moritz yet. She looks down, just waiting to break it to him. Don't you tell him either. She stares hard at you. I'll tell him when I'm ready. And I don't want him getting worried about Ankita's history. He can be very protective. You should tell him. Look, all I care is that she's heading for the Starward Belt. She looks out of the bay. That's where I'm headed. She turns back to face you. Also, I wanted to ask. She stops, unsure. If you'd like to come with us. I can't. She interrupts before you answer. I know things have been hard for you on the Eye, and you helped me so much. I asked Ankita if she'd carry two of us, and she said yes. Moritz will take over the bay anyway, although if you stay, you are welcome to help him run it. I just thought... She sighs. You might be in need of a fresh start as much as I am. She turns away nervously. Think about it anyway. The berth is there. We've got to finish the job first anyway. And with that, she kicks away and heads to the racks before you can offer an answer. Moments later, Moritz enters with a new cutting torch for the disarming of the ambergris. The Starward Belt. You push your thoughts to the back of your mind. Time to get to work. So there's no time limit on this. Huh. Alright. I'd really rather focus on dealing with the whole, end of the world thing first before I help Ankita out, especially because, why should we trust her, At least that's probably what my character thinks. Oh, cool. Normally I wouldn't glance at my phone, but for some reason I just got the feeling to look over at the notification I just got. So, today is Thursday the 13th that I'm recording this. I don't think that's worth it. Let's do this. Oh, that's not what I want. Well, no, because we can work and get more food. There we go. Plus it's engaged, so we have the chance to, get food anyways. We're gonna scrap it up this turn. So yeah, today is the 13th. And since the 7th, I've been back and forth with the TikTok shop because I'm trying to do my merch. Oh, look at all these 6s. Man, I wish today was tomorrow. This is the perfect time to get a bunch of scrap, though. Let's do it, though. Let's just get a bunch of scrap. I've never seen a scrap other than, the regular scrap components. We'll do a reroll. Oh my gosh. Pure 6s. That's crazy. I've been trying to set up with the TikTok shop. That's basically what I've been doing. Do we have... We have mushrooms. Let's go cook some matsutakis. And I don't have a driver's license. I have a regular ID. And on the sign-up screen, let's feed our cat too. It talks about how you can sign up with an ID, a driver's license, or, big or a passport, and I don't have a passport or driver's license, so I said I'll use my ID. It seems like the perfect option. And I tried 3 times. It did not work. It said I was using the wrong type of identification, and then I got frustrated, so I opened a ticket. And then for the next 3 days, they asked for a still of the email that I got that was the denial, and then they told me to enter it again and they'd fix it. And so I've been doing that over and over the last few days. And finally, just now, I got an email and we're good to go. So I'll be able to sell the merch that I'm releasing next. Well, let's see. For you, today is Wednesday. I will be releasing merch on Friday. You'll probably start seeing it at the bottom of my videos starting Saturday or Sunday, depending on when I can get the YouTube shop set up. But, you know, it's nice to also have TikTok as an option. I know it's not like the best site in the world, but, you know, all I'm really doing is throwing my merch on there and being like, hey, look, good stuff shirts, you know. That's it. Okay. Sleeper. Peek is waiting for you in the corridor. It's time. Peek looks pale and disheveled, with heavy marks under their eyes and strands of hair sticking to their face. For what? Peek smiles weakly. Nice try, but we can't dodge this. Peek holds up a thumbnail-sized drive. All the data I have compiled on the Flux event, the effects of the wave, and the structures that hide within it is on here. You look at the tiny drive. A casket of dark secrets. I have annotated it to the best of my ability. Anyone should be able to understand the threat, the potential in this. Peek sighs. It makes for grim reading. Without intervention, the eye will suffer a cascading collapse of systems, just like the colonies of Ember's moons. Intervention? Peek grimaces. That I'm still working on. Peek looks at the drive. This shadow in the flux, this protocol, is so hard to pin down. It adapts to any countermeasure I have tried to deploy. It's like trying to hold water in a cage. It slips straight through. There has to be a way. Peek closes their hand around the drive. We need help, Sleeper. This is about everyone on this station, they sigh. We have to set up a meeting to tell someone who can do something about all this. Sol? Perhaps. Maybe the flotilla will have a better chance of survival if they have the data. But what about the eye? Will they protect it? Or perhaps we've been thinking about this all wrong. Peek's eyes glint. Why make a choice when we can tell both of them? Why pick a side when the only side in this entire thing is one we all need to take? Peek speaks as they think, their words barely keeping pace with their thoughts. We need to resist this together, or we will fail. We need everyone on board, Sleeper. Peek smiles. That is the only way. We send the data to both. I mean, obviously. Peek smiles. I'm glad you see it too. They look away. Another Flux event is coming. I'm sure of it. And I'm not sure we can survive without help. Peek opens their hand and holds the drive out for you to take. You need to do this, Sleeper. I can't. You know Sol, you know Helene. They trust you. To them, I'm just another spacer, but you are a part of this place. Hearing someone say that hits you hard. You are a part of the eye. Peek is right, but right now that feels more like a weakness than a strength. I have set up a data relay at the cordon. It's neutral ground. Take the data and send it out to Havenage and the flotilla. Once they receive it, they will come. We can be sure of that. You will meet them there and take them through it all. No one could do a better job. They tuck a strand of hair behind their ear. Come with me. Peek pauses. I can't. It would only draw suspicion on you. Havenage want nothing to do with us, and Sol is paranoid at best. Peek tentatively puts a hand on your shoulder. Thank you, Sleeper. I know this is hard, but we have to move forward. We can't keep this to ourselves anymore. They step back, looking thin and pale in the harsh station light. Come talk to me once it's done, and they slip away into the eye. Well, here's the cordon. We have the data. The second part of the flotilla's story is complete. Episode Purge, the final episode, will begin when the clock blows complete. Good luck. Okay, well, if that's happening, we need to do... Okay, we have a break. Let's go do our thing. We're just re-outfitting the ambergris. All right. Amber looks better than she ever has before. Bliss has done an incredible job of cleaning up the hull, and despite the exterior changes being limited, she has the impression of being lighter, somehow sleeker than before. Moritz drifts by. He has been loading up the final equipment onto the Amber. It turns out Ankita will be taking her weapons, but packed and ready to sell at the first Star Wars belt port she hits. But now that Moritz is done, he seems in a kind of daze, floating back and forth aimlessly. You okay, Moritz? What's that? He turns. Oh, right. Packed and sacked. He smiles a weak smile. Was hoping Miss Cassetta would let me keep a warhead. What do you think of her? Miss Cassetta? He shrugs. She seems tired and old. Like, older than she looks. Hey, Sleeper. He looks down. Did you know Bliss was leaving? You understand now. She told him. That's why he's like this. I did. He nods distractedly. She said this place is mine. He looks up around the bay like it is suddenly some vast space he doesn't know what to do with. You'll do a great job. He looks down at you. Hey, thanks. He smiles. I appreciate you saying that. Not many people believed in me before now. First Bliss, then you. A dark look suddenly crosses his face. Hey, Sleeper. There was something Bliss said. He meets your eye. Are you going too? Before you can answer, Ankita glides into the bay, a massive crate on her shoulder. Sleeper, you coming or what? Bliss is already on board. She stops by the terminal, holding herself in place. Moritz looks at her with a dazed expression. You look at Ankita. She's keeping it together now. She's packed with all those bad feelings down someplace where you'll never see them and build a tough foundation on top. She may not be a mercenary anymore, but you imagine most people wouldn't think twice before trying to cross her. Well, she looks at you. I'm not eager to spend another moment of my time on this station unless I have to. She pauses, looking between you and Moritz. She sighs. I'll give you a minute. And she kicks off with the crate, taking it to the end of the bay where the Amber sits docked. You look back at Moritz. I'm going. Moritz looks like he might pass out. I get it. He steels himself. It's the right decision. Thank you. Hey, thank you for working with me these past cycles. He smiles a shaky smile. I learned a lot. Hey, look. He moves a little closer. You've got to find what you need. I did. Bliss, this place, you. This was everything I needed. He sniffs. I was in a bad place, and this pulled me out. He looks away. You go find it. Ankita comes back across the bay, the final crate stowed. You coming then, Sleeper? I'm coming. She nods. Well, okay then. Come on over with your things and we'll get you settled. She pauses. I'm sure Amber will be happy to have you. You both glide away from Moritz. His eyes wet, but a smile on his face. He waves as you go, dwarfed by the vast bay, and you hope he will make it, even though you know, somehow, that he will. Ankita helps you through the lock, onto the Amber, and the sense of familiarity is overwhelming. You think about all the time you've spent working on these corridors, listening to these sounds, diagnosing those hisses. Ankita gives you a minute before she speaks. Look, Sleeper, I'm not going to go back over everything that happened. She sighs. I'm trying to put that behind me. She stops, unsure of how to proceed. I need to learn to trust you again. She nods. I understand. She stops. You don't ever need to trust me again if you don't want to. She shakes her head. I mean, take your time. I get it. She sounds pained, tired. And you move off down the corridor towards the berths. She tries again. I don't think it was that I thought the wrong things about who or what you are. I think I just didn't think. Of you, I mean. I didn't think about how things might affect you. And I realized I've been like that for a long time. Focused, stubborn, willing to get the job done at any cost. She pauses. This is hard for her, but you don't want her to interrupt. You don't want to interrupt. Well, I'm sick of paying the cost. I'm sick of being used as an extension of something bigger, something crueler than me, And having that cruelty, that violence flow through me, I just want to be me for a while. She looks down. Or at least figure out who that is. She takes a deep breath. So what I'm saying is, you can get off at the first port we hit in the belt. I wouldn't blame you. It's a smart move. She pauses. Or you can stick around and we'll see if we can find a way to make space for all of us. She looks away, her energy exhausted. I'll think about it. She nods, nothing else. This is you. She turns you to a small room with a bunk and a porthole to the flickering lights outside. The outside wall is sloped, like a roof, and tucked beneath it is a small desk and a terminal. Bliss is next door, though I think she's in the hold right now. She said she wants to make sure the warheads are locked down tight. Ankita observes your nervous response. I mean, they are, obviously. She gives you a look. Ankita slips away, and you look around the room. You go over to the porthole and place a hand on the wall and feel Amber purr. You think you're gonna like it here. You stay like that for a while, looking out on the porthole, one hand on the wall, feeling the ship. It is through that porthole that you will watch the eye getting smaller and smaller, drowning in the back, in the black. At some point, it will become so small that you could hold it in between your thumb and index finger, and then it will wink out and you won't be able to see it anymore. And it is at that moment that you will finally exhale and collapse into your bunk. In moments, you will be asleep, and when you wake up, it will be among friends, on your way to somewhere new. Oh, dang it! Guys! I forgot! We got that data in our pocket! There's a whole flux thing! What am I doing? Ah! I'm staying. Moritz looks like he might pass out. Sleeper, are you sure? Are you doing this for me? I'm staying for me. Moritz nods. Alright then. You're staying. He grins. Ankita comes back across the bay, the final crate stowed. You staying then, Sleeper? I'm staying. She nods. Well, okay then. One less mouth to feed. She pauses. Look, Sleeper, I'm not going to go back over everything that happened, she sighs. But I'm trying to put that behind me, but I hope you find what you're looking for here. She smiles and kicks off gliding to the ambergris and the starward belt beyond. You both watch in silence as Amber drives fire. You both watch in silence as Amber's drives fire up. I guess this is our place now, says Moritz, the weight of everything suddenly hitting him. I guess so. He smiles. That's cool. You both stay for a while to watch Amber, and Bliss and Ankita leave, and then Moritz goes to the racks to finally implement a new organizational system and you head out, promising to be back to check on things soon. As you glide around the soft curve of the hub, you catch glimpses of the distant stars flickering through the windows. They are beautiful, it's true, but by now you think of them as a distraction. In your time on the Eye, you've realized there's nothing out there waiting for you. No fresh starts and no bright futures. Just a whole load of problems you haven't found yet. No, your place is here, among the people you know and the problems you know. Like the flux. You wish Ankita and Bliss the best of luck out in the Belt, but as you do, you focus on the Eye, on the vast spinning rim that rotates around its hub, on its buildings and flashing lights, on its people and places. This is your home, and, for now, it contains all the futures you need. As soon as we save it. And obviously, we can't watch the credits yet. We're not done with the game. I believe in us. Let's go take care of this flux, guys. How's that sound? How are we gonna survive the purge, though? Like, doesn't that mean murder's, like, on the table for everyone? Wow. Feel like we're just about there. We're just about done, guys. It's such a weird feeling. Next round is yours. Moritz arrives at the table with a couple of steel drink canisters, typical of the hub's only bar, the Gimbal Lounge. He settles into the webbing beside the table and clunks them down onto the magnetic table. This place, you have decided, is ridiculous. A rapidly spinning, cavernous sphere, the gimbal's weak gravity, just like the gravity at the eye's rim, is created by its gut-wrenching rotation. The interior surface of the sphere is the gimbal's floor, which descends towards the equator where one long bar loops around the entire circumference. Tumbling out from that central ring are an array of booths and seating arrangements, equipped with all kinds of harnesses and webbing to keep customers in place. Those harnesses are there because the gimbal doesn't quite spin up fast enough, and you watch as the clientele bounces towards the bar in lazy arcs, or shift from table to table with graceful leaps. "What are you thinking?" asked Moritz, noticing you staring out into the gimbal. "Nothing," Moritz shrugs. "Suit yourself." Moritz takes a drink and stretches. "So, Sleeper, you sticking around?" "If you'll have me." Moritz nods. "Of course, I'm going to need help in the bay." Moritz rubs the back of his head. "One cycle at a time, that's how we'll take it. Nice and easy. You aren't sure if he's talking to himself or you." "We'll make it." He lifts his drink for a toast. "To the next cycle," he pronounces, and knocks it back. Later, when you finally leave the gimbal, Moritz is still laughing. You help him out of the spinning gimbal and back into the hub, sending him on his way home to the bay. Then you pause for a moment to watch the stars as they spin and spin around the eye. You smile to yourself, and think of Bliss and Ankita out there somewhere, among those points of light. To the next cycle. So that's it, huh? This isn't Bliss's bay anymore, it's Moritz's bay. So what, can we just come here and work now? Nice. Low-scale repair contracts. Moritz is happy to offload some of the work to you. Let's do one, just for old time's sake. There we go. You manage an M2 converter rewire in record time, giving you and Moritz some spare time to chat about recent business. Love that. I think the last thing I'm going to do with this particular day is we're going to go to the commune. Okay, we got 2 more cycles on that. Let's go to the commune. Sunbathing. Sunbathing is not worth it whenever we can just, like, go and work and get energy. I mean, I guess it's good in an emergency, but we don't really need it. Okay. Let's do this. Final part. With the data sent, the only thing to do is wait. As you do, you imagine Helen receiving the data, perhaps in the middle of some Havenage Council meeting. You think of her trembling hands as she slips out of the room to read it. Her reaction, you can't predict. You imagine Saul, too, one of his crew finding him in some corner of the Pilgrim Seed, overseeing the modifications that will turn it into an ark. Those sharp eyes scanning the data, looking for a way to proceed. The wait draws out, and to pass the time, you watch the activity beyond the edge of the eye. The scrap shuttles pulling components from the now abandoned cordon, and the supply skiffs making runs between the flotilla shifts. It isn't long before you hear the chirping of one of Helene's now familiar drones approaching the viewing platform, and then Helene herself strides into the room. "Where did you get this, Sleeper?" Helene holds up a slate scrolling the streams of flux data as she enters. "I need to know your source." "A friend. You seem to have a lot of friends, Sleeper." Helene raises an eyebrow. "But I need this data authenticated. I can't just..." She pauses and pushes her hair back out of her face. "This is a lot to take in. A shadow protocol inside the flux? The system's KAN channel starting up? A total collapse of the eye?" She rubs her forehead. "If I bring this to the council, they'll..." She turns away. "They'll believe you." She laughs. "Do you know what has been happening within Havenage, Sleeper?" She looks away out at the flotilla. "Since the refugee ships started arriving, things have changed. It's chaos. No one can settle on a single issue. There is division at every vote. But in the division, only one group prospers, the hardliners. Because as each counselor gets tired of the arguments, gets tired of compromise, they become more attracted to the easy answers. The flotilla is to blame. The refugees are opportunists. The eye must be defended." She shakes her head. "And now you are telling me that they brought something to the eye that will cause its collapse?" "They didn't bring it. It doesn't matter, Sleeper. That is all the counselors will hear. She closes her eyes, a hand to her temple. Many of them already presume that the refugees are somehow to blame. Did someone say refugees? Saul clanks into the docking bay, grinning at the situation. Speak of the devil, and well, here I am. His suit hisses as he settles on his cane. Helene glances between the two of you, uncertain if she has been drawn into some elaborate plan. Saul holds out a hand to her. Sol, he nods. I believe we have spoken remotely while the cordon was still up. I sent both of you the data. Sol laughs. Well, thank you. He raises an eyebrow. Evidence of our mutual inevitable destruction is not much of an olive branch, but I'll take it. I'm not Havenage, Helene blurts out, and then corrects herself. What I mean to say is no one person represents Havenage. That's the idea. I did not support the cordon, and I did not support your quarantine. Sol nods. Well then, Sol glances at you. Anyone mind if I get myself up to speed here? He pauses, but you get the feeling he isn't expecting an answer. 1. The flux events, the very same destabilizing waves that collapsed the colonies on the moons of Ember, have reached the station. He holds up a stubby finger. 2. According to data the Sleeper provided, these events are acting as a cover for some kind of intrusive protocol which is causing the real damage. A second finger joins the first. 3. The Shadow Protocol will do the very same thing it did to Ember Song, Step, and Hearth, and quickly. In short, it'll shut down everything keeping this place alive. A third finger pops up. 4. And this is my favorite. We have no idea who or what is doing this, and why. Sol's final finger joins the other 3. Is that about all of it? There's also another flux event coming. Of course there is. Sol smiles thinly. Sounds... Helene pauses, searching for words. Intimidating. Helene turns to Sol. Did you manage to put up any kind of resistance on Ember's Hearth? Sol shakes his head. That's why we were here. The Pilgrim Seed was the biggest ship to make it out unscathed. He pauses. I suppose we didn't have this data. We didn't know what was eating up the systems. We all thought it was the flux. Helene looks at you, and I imagine you, Sleeper, and whoever helped you uncover this might be able to figure out a countermeasure. We can try. Helene nods approval. Okay, so that's the start of it. If you'll forgive me, Sol cuts in. Part of why I was able to save as many as I could on Ember's Hearth was that I gave up hope early. Sol shifts his weight, his suit hissing. There were endless strategy meets, system reboots, tests and trials, but I just got on with working on the Pilgrim Seed, with getting people on board. So when the second and the third and the rest of the flux events hit, we were ready to go. So I can offer you some advice, Miss Not Havenage. It is to give up on that line of thought you have, that hope, and to start the evacuation now, right this cycle. Sol looks out of the observation deck towards the Pilgrim Seed. I've already started the process of converting the remaining volume of the Pilgrim Seed for human habitation. With Havenage's resources, I dare say we could finish the job with time to spare. Sol scratches his beard. I know it's hard and I know it's sudden, but you have to give up hope. We have to run. There will be no heroes here, just those that keep living and those that don't. Helene listens in silence. Making calculations, she looks out at the bulk of the Pilgrim Seed which, despite all its vastness, is dwarfed by the eye as a whole. Something flickers in her eyes. She opens her mouth to speak. She stops, frozen. Let me think. Helene rubs her temple. I need a moment. She paces, and as you watch her, you realize how young she is, and how lost she is in the systems and protocols she has to navigate. You can almost see the strings and ties that bind her, glinting like webs in the wide space of observation platform. We purged the Shadow Protocol. Helene stops pacing. But with what resources? The data you sent me? This thing is a shadow, uncontrollable, untraceable. Perhaps with the full contingent of Havenage's systems department, but that would require hundreds of work orders to be overlooked. Maintenance schedules abandoned. She looks away. Getting that through the council, would that even be possible? She glances at Sol, who is patiently watching, patiently listening. We have to try. Helene looks at the slate again. I will take this to the council. Force them to listen. Force them to act. You both jump as someone loudly clears their throat nearby. Your eyes jump to the dark entryway that Helene emerged from just minutes ago. Camp. What a cozy little meeting this is. A man steps from the shadows, dressed in the same style of Havenage overalls as Helene. And I must say, that is some very incendiary rhetoric you are using, Counselor Helene. Ugh, I already hate this guy. You glance at Helene and her face drops immediately. Kemp. She curses under her breath. Saul shifts his weight on his cane, but otherwise remains still, like a casual observer. Plotting against Tavenage with an interloper, he gestures at Saul. Everyone will be so disappointed. Kemp smiles a bright smile. Some of the counselors had such high hopes for our youngest member. His smile drops. I, of course, never let novelty distract from the importance of experience. Helene stares daggers at Kemp. Enough of this petty shit, Kemp. You need to see this. She holds out her slate with an outstretched arm. The games are over. No more point scoring. No more lobbying. You and your hardliners need to stop. This is something real. Kemp calmly takes the slate and prods the screen, scrolling through the Flux data. His face betrays nothing, but you see some complex calculation flickering in his sharp eyes. Kemp lowers the slate slowly and smiles at Helene. And what do you think this shows? Helene frowns. Don't play games. You can read. The Flux is a carrier signal for some shadow protocol, most likely corporate in nature. Maybe it's Solheim re-emerging to claim their station. Maybe it's a takeover, but either way, the station is under threat. You are right about that, but the rest? Conjecture. Kemp rubs his chin. What we have is a virus in our systems, which emerged precisely when the flotilla arrived. In fact, it times in perfectly with the mysterious event that freed them. So what I see is a hostile cyber warfare attack, instigated by dissidents that fled Ember's moons after committing terrorist attacks on their own soil. Kemp's face darkens. That is the order of the facts. Nothing more and nothing less. Facts I'll be happy to present to the council. Kemp tightens his grip on the slate. Helene laughs. You think that's the only copy of that data, you sanctimonious shit? No, I don't. But who do you think they will listen to, Helene? Especially after I tell everyone about this little clandestine meeting. You couldn't win power by Havanage's systems, by our laws, so you resort to this. Kemp shakes his head. The law is with me. It is as simple as that. He gestures, and out of the shadows, 2 Havanage security officers appear. Now, no need for that, Saul suddenly speaks up. His silence had meant Kemp had stopped paying attention to him, but now you notice he has backup of his own. A group of his crew stand at the edges of the room. They're carrying long, boxy guns. You'd never seen anything like them on the eye. Glossy XPR logos glint along their barrels. These are Esh's guns. Kemp freezes, and the officers hesitate, holding back in this doorway. Be careful there, outsider, he stutters. Kill me, and Havanage will never forget. Saul waves a hand at him. No one's killing anyone, so let's calm down. Saul scratches his beard, but I am going to have to ask you to leave. Helene glances at him, and he gives her a gentle nod. And you'll leave your colleague here with me. He raises an eyebrow. We haven't finished our conversation. Kemp laughs and shakes his head. You are finished, Helene. The council will never allow you back after this. Then he turns and walks out of the observation deck, taking his officers with him. You all pause to catch your breath. Helene looks ready to collapse. Saul flexes inside his suit, nodding at his crew to check that Kemp is fully retreated. Saul wrenches part of his suit back into place, grimacing. Your friends leave a lot to be desired. He shoots a glance at Helene. Seems like support for the evacuation might be a hard ask. Helene doesn't respond. She stares out at the Pilgrim Seed once more, trying to process what's in front of her. She sighs and turns back to you both. I won't call for an evacuation. She looks at Saul. Maybe that is a fatal mistake, but I can't do it. You have to. Helene ignores you. But, she pauses, I won't block it either. If people want to leave, Havanage will let them. That is what I will propose to the council, she sighs. If they let me speak, you have to try. She nods at you and Saul and turns to leave. Saul is quiet. He scratches at his beard. Good luck, he offers to the departing Helene, but she does not respond. He leans on his cane. I'll be honest with you, Sleeper. None of this changes anything for me. The Pilgrim Seed will be going in a handful of cycles, whether Havanage wants it or not. You can't abandon the Eye. Saul raises an eyebrow. I seem to remember it was us being abandoned not so long ago. I'm not sure the reverse applies. Saul puts a hand on your shoulder. There's a berth for you, and for any you can gather, Sleeper. That much I owe you. And Helene? I wouldn't hold out much hope of her coming around, Sleeper. She's too tied up in all this. It won't let her leave if she wants to. He eyes you. Hell, I'd say the same about you, but you have a habit of proving me wrong. My crew will take me from here. Don't you worry, Saul straightens up. Oh, and thank you, Sleeper, for sending the data. I appreciate the extra info, and I'll see if it can help us shore up the Pilgrim Seed against any future flux events. If we had you back on Ember's hearth, he pauses, suddenly losing his appetite for discussing the past. Saul sighs. Of course, we are going to need all the help we can get. If you can spare some time, come by the Pilgrim Seed. Help me get it ready. Bring others. There's a future to be earned here, cycle by cycle. We will be leaving as soon as we are able. If you want to help us get there faster, well, you'd be welcome. He meets your eye. Saul grimaces. Well, he pauses. Just don't keep me waiting. And he limps off towards his waiting crew. You pause for a moment to let your thoughts catch up. Peak will want to hear about all this. They should be your first port of call. Ah, man. What are we doing? So we're evacuating? I thought we were fixing. This doesn't make any sense. We gotta talk to Peak. I mean, we gotta get Moritz come help us out. Who all trusts me? I feel like so many people trust me. Okay, we're gonna go talk to Peak. He's gonna probably give us a bunch of new ideas. We're gonna be able to talk about where the guns went. Damn it, Saul. Making things more complicated. As you enter the climbing briar, you immediately have to jump aside as Esh, lugging a massive crate across the cargo bay, pushes past you, grunting an apology as she does. Reminds me of when we met. Esh sniffs and doesn't look back. As you turn back to the bay, Peak pushes past too. Sorry, Sleeper, just a second. Peak rushes to catch up with Esh. Put that down, please, Esh, but she doesn't respond to their urging. We can't leave, not yet. Peak puts a hand on her shoulder. Please. I'm the only one here who can... The crate drops, the sound of its impact echoing around the bay like thunder. Can do what, Peak? Her eyes are burning with anger. Save this place? Are you still that naive? We are running, Peak. We are running because this thing cannot be stopped. It couldn't be stopped at XPR, our home. Why would we stay to stop it here? Because we can, Esh. We can give these people a chance. Peak pleads with her. Like they gave the refugees a chance? Oh no. Refugees. Esh shakes her head. No, Peak, this is not on us. We barely made it out of XPR. I worked for years to escape, and now you want to throw it all away? I left everything behind. My mother, my friends, to take you out of that place. She clenches her jaw. She turns and slams her hand onto the crate, breathing hard. We go. That's the end of it. Peak turns away. You feel unsure what to do. But you know now is not the time for outside arguments. This is between them. Peak crosses the bay back towards you. I'm sorry you had to see that, Sleeper. They sigh. Let's talk upstairs. Peak leads you into the entry ladder, taking you up out of the bay and onto the habitation level of the ship. You follow them through the tight corridors, noticing the handwritten notes, the clutter, the repairs, the signs of a home. Here, sit. Peak gestures to the broad mess table with its curved couches, and you slide into one on side. Peak sits opposite. They brush their hair out of their eyes and take a deep breath. So, how did it go? What did they say? I've been waiting all cycle. Peak listens nervously as you explain how Helene said she will support your efforts to find a countermeasure for the Shadow Protocol. Okay. Peak looks pleased. That sounds good, much better than I was hoping, but what about the Council? Are they behind that, or will she operate alone? Tell them about Kemp. Now you tell them about Kemp's sudden appearance. Damn. Then Helene's going to have problems of her own to deal with. Peak shakes their head. Peak shakes their head. Looks like we won't be able to count on anything from Havenage. They pause. What stopped Kemp from arresting her? Tell them about the guns. Peak rolls their eyes. Of course. Those are the guns Ash managed to smuggle through to the refugees. The ones she didn't tell us about. Peak sighs. Another thing that's on us. What's on us? Ash is standing quietly in the doorway listening. You don't know how long she had been there for. Peak looks up at her with tired eyes. Sleeper found the weapons you smuggled from XPR. Esh freezes. She glances between you and Peak, as if this might be some elaborate joke. The flotilla used them? Esh moves out the doorway and enters the room. What happened? Peak interrupts. Be thankful that they didn't. They used them as a threat, that is all. Good. Esh folds her arms. You get the feeling that she knows Peak will not approve. Peak goes to speak and then decides not to take the bait. They glance at you. I'm sure you've heard enough of us arguing this cycle, Sleeper. Peak shoots a look at Esh. But our introduction of those weapons into the equation are just another reason why we cannot simply run away. Esh looks away, but says nothing. She surely knows they cannot absolve themselves of responsibility here, so what is motivating her? You realize that she still might be trying to protect Peak, even from themselves. Suddenly a shrill beeping fills the room, and Peak pulls out their slate to silence it, but as they do, they freeze, their finger hovering above the screen, the beeping continuing its insistent pulse. What? Peak doesn't seem to hear you. They blink with glazed eyes at the slate, then they let out a long exhale and tap the screen. The bleeping shuts off, leaving a ringing silence behind. Esh frowns at Peak, planning to explain. 12 cycles. Peak looks vacantly up at you both. The 12 cycles until the next flux event. They shake their head. I have been using the arrays on the Briar to look towards the center of the system, to approximate where the KAN channel should be. Just this moment, they detected a signal from the inner system. Given the distance and pattern of previous flux events, we have 12 cycles before it reaches the eye. The silence in the room is deafening. 12 cycles, that's it, before a second wave hits in this place. Peak interrupts your thoughts. We start now, that's the end of it. Peak stands up to face Esh. You want to take the Briar and run, Esh? That's on you, but I won't do it. They take a deep breath. I'll be here, Sleeper, for every cycle it takes trying to find a solution. I'll need your help. Their eyes meet yours, and you see a wild desperation flickering there. We will find something. The sooner we have a plan, the better. If it takes us 12 cycles to fix this thing, it'll be too late. Peak's eyes flash with determination. They reach for a slate and pass it to you, so we can keep in touch. You pocket the thin, handheld terminal. And Esh? Peak starts, but she is gone, storming down the corridors of the ship on a path to who knows where. You know from experience that it is impossible to outrun your fears, but you get a sense that Esh will try anything. Anyway. Peak rubs their red eyes, staring after Esh. Maybe I'll take a moment before we start. They smile weakly, tears of exhaustion gathering in their eyes. See you back here soon, okay? And you slip them from the room into the corridor, Peak's quiet sobs somehow carrying through the ship behind you as you leave. That's sad. 12 cycles. Pilgrim Seed. We can prep the Pilgrim? So we lose a cycle because of the way that I started, unfortunately. So let's see, there's nothing here, no data to work with. So let's go on over. I'm just trying to be really thorough here. Oh, that was some good water. Looking around, I don't see anything. Okay, there's nothing here to do. My empty container, Dock C4, the Bentanian. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. Can we do both? Why can't we do both, you know? Alright, there's not really much to do right now, so we're just going to go ahead and use some more scrap to keep our stability up. Alright, fresh day. Fresh stuff to do. How can we prepare? Here's the climbing briar. Devise a strategy. Alright, let's do it. Shoot. That was a waste of time. Alright, devising a strategy. Peak beckons you over the wide mess table where they have set up a terminal. The hours of bleary-eyed work have left you both drained, and Peak looks ready to collapse. You slide onto the curved couch beside them, something dark and malevolent filling their screen like an oil stain. I'm sick of looking at this thing. Look again. Peek's eyes seem to glitter in the screen light. This isn't what you think, Sleeper. Not by a long shot. You look again at the screen, letting in close to the dark, curved shape to see its texture. You see whirls and currents like a river, a dark flow unlike the Shadow Protocol's dark tangle. You know exactly what this is. You've swum in this river, almost drowned in its shifting flow. It is the Gardener's Chorus, the dark cloud which blankets the Greenway's networks, the bioorganic morass of a malfunctioning protocol grown vast and strange. The Gardener. Peek glances at you. How did you... Have you met them? I have. Peek shakes their head. Incredible. Then perhaps you won't be surprised by what I'm about to propose. Everything I've tried to do contain the Shadow Protocol has been a failure. It slips through any containment, absorbs any countermeasure. That, unfortunately, is an unavoidable fact. And yet the eye still spins. The Shadow Protocol is being slowed, partially contained. It has spread across the station, as we have seen, but in reduced pockets and fragments. And so I started to look outside of our test cases, outside of these fragments we have been poking and prodding in our little lab, and look what I found. Peek taps a key on their terminal, and you realize that the screen is showing a recording of the data flow inside the eye's networks, sampled from hundreds of points around the Greenway. You watch a subtle shift occurs at the edge of the flowing dark curve that blankets the Greenway. Something spreading like an ink stain, somehow darker than black, it bleeds across the Shadow Protocol. Now watch. Peek eagerly points at the screen. You see something strange, a fizzing at the edge of the shadow, a sparking, and then it is gone. And beneath, for a moment, a millisecond, you see into the networks of the Greenway. You are reminded of an image you had forgotten, of pulling a plant from its pot and seeing a bone with white root ball where you expected to see dark soil. The white connections writhe like worms, and then it is gone, the dark flow closing up as quickly as it opened. It dissolved the shadow. Exactly. It protected itself. You think back to your meeting with the Gardener, to that sense of something old and world and inhuman to its core. Peek excitedly starts to explain. This is the only chance we have, the only countermeasure we have seen, and the moment it opened, I detected something, a centralized intelligence with the local ID, Gardener. This protocol, this system, whatever it is, it can protect its network from the Shadow Protocol. But if it stays in the Greenway, the eye will still fall. The station's systems are too exposed, too spread across the hub, the shipyards, the spokes. Peek glances away. The only way is to break it open, to spread the entity's network or access it, expand it somehow. I've been inside there, Peek. And this Gardener, can they help us? You try to remember what the strange being said to you, but all you remember is the feeling of dissolving into that network. The heady mix of growth and decay, the ceaselessness of it. Would they protect the station, or would they simply dissolve it? They might. Peek stands up and walks away a little. They lean against the countertop, their head hanging so low that their long hair touches the work surface. You hear them breathing deeply. I don't know, Sleeper. They lift their head. I really don't know. It's a chance. Maybe. They shake their head. You know as well as Peek that this is it. You know it because over the past cycles you have run every stipulation, every possibility you could think of, and still come up with nothing. You've stared a hole into your screen and dreamt of the black shadow creeping in at the edges of your vision. Peek recognizes the look in your eyes, the potent cocktail of resignation and anger. Let's say we do this, Peek begins, eyeing you carefully. What do we need? They begin to answer their own question, thinking out loud. I suppose we'd need to do two things. Find a way to limit or control the Gardener's spread, and then reconnect the Greenway. Peek starts pacing, the ideas coming quickly now. Controlling the spread means preparing the station. Limit the Gardener's network to key systems. We don't want it taking everything, we just need it to protect the station's core functionality. Then, we need to reconnect the Greenway, hook it back up to the main LAN of the network. Those systems we prepared, they should connect, and Gardener will spread along the paths we prepared. At least, that's my theory. Peek grimaces, but if we don't prepare correctly, the Gardener might not spread, or it might spread to everything. Peek closes her eyes, and after that, things might get worse. It can't be worse than a total collapse. Don't say it, Sleeper. Peek sits back at the terminal and brings up a map of the eye. Rotational control at the hub, life support at the Free Spoke, power routing at the Havented shipyards. They stab at the map with each one, marking them in red. Then there's something the central core, as I understand it, is somewhere on the rim. I'd need to find it. They push their hair out of their face. We seed the gardener in all these places. Peak pauses. But how are we going to do that? Transplant the greenway? Peak smiles. Of course. The gardener needs plants to care for. That is what their protocol dictates. They must have been part of the farming management systems of the Eye, back when Solheim built it. We seed greenway plants into those systems, and then the gardener will seek them out, protect them. Peak stares at the map of the Eye. It's a wild idea, but it could work. But we'll need a way into those systems. Havenage have most of them locked down for safety purposes. We can't just walk in. I know a guy. I know a guy. Peak raises an eyebrow. Someone in the Havenage systems team? You nod. After everything he dragged you through, you feel like Feng still owes you. Time to pay him a visit. Okay, well, I guess we should pay him a visit. Lead the way. You both leave the ship, carried forward by the excitement of the plan and an eagerness to not look at the details too closely. You push any lingering questions to the back of your mind. Time to head to Feng's Bay. Let's just go talk to him. Oh, Feng. We gotta find him? SMH. Alright, well that's one day down. Let's just eat while we're here. Sweet, sweet matsutakis. I think we have enough stuff to get through a little bit of the cycle. And if we wait 3 cycles, we'll get even more scrap, so we'll be able to repair more. We're gonna sleep at our old house. We'll go ahead and do this in case I forget next cycle. And that's it. Alright, 2 down, 10 to go. As long as we stay at peak functionality, we should be okay. Bunch of 3s and 4s. Wrong wing. We go over to Feng. Where is he? Where is that MF? We go here. Try it again. One more. Ah, dang it. We gotta go again. That's it. No more wasting time, Peak sighs and pulls out their slate. They crack open a box on the side of the base shutter and wire the slate to what's inside. Maybe your friend has a Havenage pass card or something inside. Peak shoots you a glance. Something they wouldn't mind if we borrow. Let's wait. Peak doesn't look up. We haven't got time to wait, they sigh. Coming here was a mistake. After a few tense moments, the shutter jerks and begins grinding open, the noise making you jump. Let's get inside, Peak glances around, quickly. You slip into the dark of the bay, punctuated by the blinking lights of Feng's piles of servers, somehow even more disordered than before. Peak makes a beeline for the desk at the center, scattered with tools and components. They flick on a lamp and stare at the mess. Are you sure this person can help us? Yes. You're interrupted by the sound of footsteps from the entrance. Someone has come in behind you. Peak freezes. I could swear I closed this shutter when I left. Feng leans on a stack of servers near the entrance. Must be getting forgetful. He grins at you. Sloppy. Where were you? Feng gives you a look. A hello would be nice, especially given that you and your... He glances at Peak. Accomplice seem to be busy rifling through my things. Feng raises an eyebrow. Thought you'd come rob an old friend. Is that the plan? We need your help. Feng nods. You're here about the flux. Peak nods and is suddenly giving Feng their full attention. Feng smiles, pleased with himself. I guessed as much. I saw changes in the old system architectures almost immediately. Some of them have been running since the first days of the station, and so when I saw new pattern shifts in logic, I knew something must have happened. These past few cycles, I've been doing a total inventory of the core systems, from the hub to the rim, he grins. I've surprised myself, to be honest. I didn't think I had it in me. Peak seems unamused. And what did you find? Feng sighs. That's the thing. There's something all twisted up in the systems and protocols. But every time I look at it, it disappears, Peak finishes. Fing turns to you. Do they always do that? Peak ignores him. It's a shadow protocol. It masks itself somehow, bending into the gaps between the systems, in the negative space. It is slowly filling up every system in the station, slowly taking over, and we need to stop it. You need to grant us access to all the core systems of the station, rotational control, life support. Fing holds up a hand. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down there. I don't even know your name. Fing shakes his head. And you are asking for the keys to the castle? Can't be done. Fing, it's me. Fing pauses and glances at both of you. How long have you known this one, Sleeper? I know I owe you, but I also know that you trust too easily. Sorry to say it. Peak cuts in. I can vouch for myself. I came to the Eye on the run from XPR Colony Hawthorne, with the intent to keep running until we hit the Starward Belt. But since I have been here, I have done everything in my power to protect this place. I helped to stabilize the refugee flotilla, to investigate the flux, to identify and make a plan to purge the Shadow Protocol from the station systems. Meanwhile, Havenage has done everything to stop and slow these actions. I have proved myself as a friend of the people of this station, not the administration, many times over, and I will not be doubted by someone who wears the badge of this corrupt administration. Peak fixes Fang with a hard look. Fang looks down at his Havenage jacket and shrugs. This is all I have in my wardrobe. Look, I have no love for the council either, friend, but someone has to run this place, and that someone is me. Fang walks over to the workbench where you're both standing and digs a slate out of the pile of tools. You want to prove yourself? Show me. Peak grabs the slate, and you recognize the tangled form of a flux node on the screen. Peak immediately starts tapping away at it, its tendrils unwinding, and the shadow, just slightly delayed, slipping out of sight. Fang leans in. Interesting, he says to himself. Before long, Peak has unfolded the system completely, and it lies splayed out like an unwound ball of string. At the center, with nowhere to left to hide, is the dark stain of the Shadow Protocol, visible for all to see. What now? Fang asks, his eyes fixed on the screen. How do you kill it? Let's let Peak answer. There's one entity on the station that we have seen purging the shadow, the Gardener. Fang frowns. Who's that, some Greenway hacker? Peak glances at you. More like an avatar of the Greenway itself. You explain the Gardener to Fang, the feeling of descending into the flowing river of consciousness. Sizz. You explain the networked chorus, the non-human collective of voices. You tell him of the farming AI's offer to you, to be networked into the chorus, dissolved in its flow. Then you explain that by granting it access to the Eye's major networks, you hope to reinforce them. Fang is silent for a moment. And you want to let this thing out? He shakes his head. That's the kind of stupid plan I'd dream up. He pauses. I like it. He smiles. This place is rammed with weird protocols and forgotten intelligences anyway. What's one more ghost in the machine? We'd try to limit it, of course, Peak explains. That's why we want your help to access the Eye's major systems, to seed some of the Gardener's spores into them, to draw the Gardener's focus to those places. Fang whistles. So the way we save the Eye is by growing mushrooms in all the server stacks? He glances at you. Sleeper, congratulations. You found someone weirder than you. Peak goes to argue, but Fang holds up a hand. In it is an all-systems Havenage pass card with his picture on it. Take it before I change my mind. Thank you. Don't mention it. Fang gives you a look. In all honesty, Sleeper, I was on my way back here to start tearing the place down. The Shadow Protocol had me spooked, so if you're telling me you have figured out a way we might fight it... He looks at Peak. No matter how crazy? Then I'm glad to help. He smiles a tight smile. Come with us. No, Sleeper. I have to keep on with my work here, strengthening those systems, back up the data. The worst comes to the worst, I'll need to rebuild. I won't let this place die. The last pieces of my parents are here, among the data. Goodbye, Fang. Fang embraces you firmly. Stay safe, Sleeper. You take the card and leave the bay with Peak. Once you're outside, they stop you. We should split up, Peak looks worried. We've wasted enough time as it is. Head to the facilities in the hub, the free spoke in the far side of the shipyard. Seed the Gardener there. I'm going to go find the core control center that's somewhere on the rim. They hold up their slate. I'll send you a message on your slate when I have something. Good luck, they squeeze your shoulder, and you exchange fearful looks. You know deep down that Peak isn't sure this will work, but they have decided to act, to move with confidence, and for that confidence you are very thankful. Alright, So how do I do these things? Is it like this? No, it's a physical thing, isn't it? Here's the life support. So we need spores. Got it. Let's eat while we're here. We don't need to repair this cycle. Okay, aviary, no, but we can harvest if we need to in an emergency. Let's go after spores. I don't care if we lose condition, it needs to happen. Oh, that's the wrong thing! Oh, I'm so silly. Why did I do that? Oh, I got too overwhelmed and I lost focus. I feel like there's going to be way more to do. We got a really bad turn, huh? We'll do our 4. Not much better. We just need one more, though. That's all we needed. Alright, let's, go and do our thing. Life support. Enjoy spores. Oh. We have to do it a bunch. Oh, never mind. Just one each. Life support. What else do we need? We need power rooting. Power routing, more like power rooting. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. And rotational control. There we go. Done with that. As you leave, the slate Peak gave you chirps insistently. You check and see a message. Found a possible entry to the core facility in the low end. Meet me here ASAP. Peak. A blinking marker gives their position as on the free spoke side of the main block. Better head to the low end. Well, let's get going. You arrive at the coordinates given by Peak Slate, a run-down but active corner of the low end where a short glass-roofed alley turns off from one of the main thoroughfares. You wait in the mouth of the alley, leaning against the wall and watching the street life go by. Children hop across grids scratched onto metal floor plates, playing games of their own devising, while older residents sit and talk or play tavla. It's hard to believe that all this is a threat. It seems so concrete, so real. How can some intangible protocol erase all this? As you are watching, a voice calls out to you from one of the tavla tables set up along the way. Oh, it's Castor. You move a little closer and recognize the sitting player immediately. Castor sits, tavla pieces and board ready in front of him, smiling at you. Sleeper, my partner has not arrived for your usual game. Come, please, take her place. He beckons you over, standing and nudging you to sit down with him. A rematch is in order. You owe me a game. Almost immediately, Castor begins the game. Everyone on the eye knows how to play tavla. The methodical movement of the counters across the triangular points, a ready fit for the rhythm of life on the ramshackle space station. Most games begin the same way, with each player moving with independence, focused only on achieving their optimal early game setup. But there is a moment in each game where it becomes necessary to notice the other player, to anticipate the crossing of the counters across the board, a point of contact. When routine becomes negotiation, and negotiation becomes conflict. As this moment arrives, the subtle shift in the texture of the interaction, Castor begins to speak. I find myself surprised by you continually, Sleeper. He looks over his glasses at you. The way you conduct yourself, for example, suggests an anxious refrain, a defensive, protective quality. But in your tavla game, he pauses to move a counter. I see only risk. Have you been watching me? Castor sighs. Let's not be paranoid. You are aware of my interest in you, are you not? Risk is, of course, necessary to play tavla. To move a piece is to expose it, but it should be done with calculation, with proper analysis. Then, if the piece is taken, Castor moves a counter, taking one of yours with a practice swap, placing it beside the board. It is already accounted for. But you move forward with abandon, as if risk was just a secondary effective action, a consequence, not its primary guide. He gestures for you to take your turn. A cause. Caster nods. See what I mean? Risky in play, but defensive in mood. He smiles. You move your piece. This locks you into being reactive, if you don't mind me saying so. You are responding, which means you are being led. He leans back to consider the board. This place, it mirrors you, Sleeper. It is also reactive. It was born from a crisis, the collapse of Solheim, and ever since it has been reacting without any central guiding principle. No analysis. No calculation. Just look at our refugee crisis, for example. It is all reaction, all risk-taking, and little risk calculation. At first, I found the chaos enlivening, especially when trying to track its outcomes, but now I find it exhausting. He laughs. It always amuses me that this place is literally spun from the rim. Below this very stack of habitation blocks the most important control facility on the eye. Spun from the rim, he laughs again. What better metaphor could you find for disorder? His face drops. But why am I telling you that? That facility is precisely why you are here. He smiles an unsettlingly warm smile. You feel a shiver through your body, as if something has changed in the air. How do you know about that? No words come out of your mouth. You feel removed from yourself, watching from behind frosted glass. Your eyes dart side to side. Inertia sets in. Caster is still smiling. The risk you are planning to take here, Sleeper, is not yours to take. Caster's tone is unshifted. He speaks as if this is still some casual conversation between passing acquaintances. You are leaping towards a chaotic outcome with no respect for risk. You see, calculating outcomes, that's my specialty. That's why I'm here. I was hired as a conduit for risk, as a collector of data that might pertain to its arrival. He removes his glasses to clean them, and you see something flicker across their surface. A shimmering stream of characters. This system, this station, is already theirs. Solheim's collapse meant a corporate fire sale. Assets changed hands. My employers, Senate Stat, bought out the entire system, and for the past decades have been its one valid owner. He polishes his glasses diligently. But to possess this system, the H1 system, he pauses. Hellion to you, well, that is a matter of risk. Of how much force, how much cost, how much conflict a clearance would take. He replaces his glasses. That risk must be calculated against the favorable outcome. In short, how much is this place worth to us? For a long time, the answer was nothing. H1 could offer nothing that would warrant the risk, but the markets change. The demands shift, and Senate Stat, we analyze, we follow, we respond. He puts his glasses back on his face. H1 is about to become the most important system in this part of the galaxy. He glances around. The lone KAN channel operating within range of 7 or so newly surveyed resource-rich systems, the frontier town that feeds the gold rush, so to speak. Oh. So here we are, reevaluating the risk, reclaiming our property, starting up the KAN channel and clearing the way for what comes next. He sits back looking at the board. He gestures. Your move. Take your move. You go to lift a piece and something glints across Caster's glasses. You feel the slowness, the inertia begin to lessen. You move your piece, taking one of Caster's exposed counters. He nods. Of course, I do not need to explain myself to you, but in the role as an analyst, in my calculations, I see great promise in you, in your ability to enter systems, to shift them to your will. Not every sleeper has this capacity. I assume you know that? He smiles. It truly is a wonderful happenstance of S&ARP's technology. I imagine even they are not fully aware of it. He takes his move, claiming another of your pieces, and as you watch you realize the inevitability of his victory. I will make you an offer. To come willingly, or come by force. This station will collapse, we can be sure of that, but your ability to work with data, well, for an analyst, that is very intriguing. He pauses to push his glasses up, his nose. Very intriguing indeed. He glances around. Come with me as a collaborator or as a prisoner. Consider the risk. On one hand, almost certain death. On the other, a possible future. Analyst or not, you must see it. Speak now, Sleeper. The game is forfeit. You must see that. He holds out a hand. You are of value. You are needed. You feel a slight release in the inertia that grips you, enough to allow you to speak, to respond. You realize that you are already in Castor's hands, that you cannot move from this place if you wanted. Sleeper? You hear the familiar voice above the crowds. Sleeper, I'm here. You are unable to turn your head to see Peak, but you notice Castor's eyes following them as they come up from behind you. Then you see Castor's eyes glance down, towards his hands, concealed beneath the table. Sleeper! Peak comes around the front of you and waves a hand to your face. We were supposed to be meeting, remember? They glance at Castor. Sorry, am I interrupting something? You cannot speak. Castor shoots Peak a wide smile. Hello, you must be a friend of Sleeper. You watch one of his hands lift, close to his body, some dark shape concealed in it, a weapon. You try to scream, to shout, but Castor's attention remains partially on you, and while it does, you can do nothing. Peak glances at your static form. What's happening here? Sleeper? They put a hand on your shoulder. Are you okay? As Peak stares into your eyes, you see Castor behind, his hand lifting, the dark object unfolding. And in the split moment it does, you feel his attention shifting to Peak, shifting away from you. As you do, you feel the inertia lifting, and you know this is the only moment you will have to act. You lurch forward wildly, like a sprung trap. Your head strikes Peak's chest and then carries them back into Castor. Somewhere some digital screech is echoing through the walkway. They tumble together, and the object in Castor's hand skitters across the floor. You realize the screech is you. You get to your feet, grab Peak, and run. You run as hard as you can, the scream chasing you down the walkway as you shove through the residence, Peak dragging behind. You run from the cold grip of whatever power Castor had over you. The signals that locked you into this body of yours, that broke the connections and crawled up your spine. Eventually you stop, both you and Peak collapsing, heaving, breathing into the cold metal floor. When they're able to speak, Peak asks you to explain and you tell them everything Castor told you. About Senate Stat, about their claim on the Hellion system, the reactivation of the KAN channel, the Hellion system's growing importance. It flows out of you in desperate gulps, unable to believe your own mouth as you hear these words coming back to you. All you feel is the need to push back against the cold hand on your shoulder, the vast, cold eye that has turned to look at the system, the ghost limbs of corporate control that are extending their reach. Peak is quiet for a long time. Then they speak. We have to finish this, Sleeper. They meet your eye. We have to complete the seeding of the systems. We have to set the Gardener free. You're right. If the choice is between Gardner and these people, I will choose Gardner every time. Their eyes are cold and steely. I would choose anything over them. You stand together. The final control facility is here. I found it. Peak looks at you grimly. I can take you as soon as you're ready. Time's almost up. This is the only shot you'll have. That's okay. We're just going to use our stabilizer. That's more important. We need to eat. Let's eat. We have plenty of money. I'm not worried about any of that. So after we run out of mushrooms, we'll just do something else. We'll just go eat with Emphis. We're gonna go to our apartment. Probably a mistake. We're gonna put in our stabilizer. Feed our cat. Let's end the cycle. Wow, I thought after the ending where I didn't do what Castor wanted, I really thought that it would be different somehow. We're getting really poor rolls right now. We gotta eat. Let's just go ahead and eat up. We can also try to buy more scrap, so we're not, like, entirely screwed. I mean, we gotta keep trying. The 2 and the 1 is just so dangerous, but I just feel like I don't have any more time to wait. We did it! Sick. Sleeper, here. P calls out to you from across the flickering corridor. An elevator to the core. They smile. This is it. It has been a long set of cycles hunting for a path through the derelict layers of old Solheim offices and workshops, but finally, here it is, a path down to the core. You rush over to Peak. As you do, the doors grind open, the dingy-looking elevator flickering as they do. You look at Peak, who nervously gestures for you to get in. The elevator bounces a little but stays stable. You glance back to see Peak watching you nervously. They follow you in sheepishly, just a little nervous. Peak reaches over and punches the button for the lowest level, flinching a little as the door grinds closed. The elevator sets off, screeching through the floors as it does at an unsettlingly loud volume. I'd feel more comfortable if we spoke. Peak raises their voice over the noise. It's not going to be a short trip. How's Esh? Peak pauses. I was thinking more like small talk, elevator talk. They sigh. She is hacking. They rub their eyes. Once Esh has set her mind on something, well, you know her now. You see what I mean. The screeching of the elevator fills the silence. Can she be persuaded to stay? I doubt it. I really do. Peak looks down. She left her life behind to take me out of XPR, out of Hawthorne. I can't imagine her settling for just anywhere. To be honest, I can't see her letting me stay either. But I guess things have changed. Back then at Hawthorne, I wasn't in a place to know what to do. I was desperate. I was ready to run. But now? Peak pauses. Now I feel done with that. Done with denying my past, my history. If I ever want to feel complete, to feel settled, don't I need to somehow resolve the person I was with the person I am now? Peak goes quiet, and you do too. There are too many possible questions. Too many possibilities before you. It just seems easier to get on with the task at hand and leave the consequences for later. The elevator screams to a stop and the doors ping open with a strangely cheerful beep. You glance at Peak. Time to move on. You both walk out into an atrium, still lit by some ragged-looking light panels on the ceiling, once simulating a summer sky, now degrading into a flickering blue and white tapestry of glitches. Peak crosses quickly, making a beeline for the large doors on the far side, where you can make out a fading sign in massive peeling letters. Central Control. You follow, helping them lever open the partially powered doors until the motors kick in and they spring to life, thudding open. You and Peak tumble through across the damp metal. As you stand, you are greeted by flickering lights, thousands of them. A vast cylindrical stack of servers, processors, and transmitters dominates the center of the room, its flickering LEDs reflected in the scattered puddles that surround it. Despite the decay, the warped panels and water leaks, it is still running, just as it has for decades and decades, since the station was first spun up. You wonder how long it has been since anyone's been in this room. What now? Peak takes a handful of mulch out from a small bag. It glitters with spores. Now we seed this place. They cross to the server and start packing the mulch deeper into the machinery, pushing fistfuls deep into gaps in the paneling, laying it across hardware. As you watch them doing this, you feel a tug, a thread pulling at you. You approach the vast piece of cylindrical hardware that Peak is stuffing mulch into. You run your hands across its plated metal surface and watch the lights blink in response. As you pass, you hear a whirring, like a physical disk drive starting up. The whirring shifts alternating, speeding up, slowing down, and as you listen, you hear it modulate into a voice. Sleeper, you freeze. You are here. Oh, it's Navigator. Another drive spins up, and another, giving the voice a richer, multi-tonal sound. I'd forgotten what it felt like to speak like this. The drives skip. There is a certain quality to it, a certain physicality. What are you doing here? The drives squawk in unison. Did you imagine the Flux, the Shadow Protocol, that they were just a problem for the people of this station? A high whining begins. They are all the more dangerous to us. I have been in hiding once more, jumping from network to network to avoid the shadow as it eats up nodes. A low rumble. I had thought my hiding days were done. For the moment, I have found myself a safe haven here in the core. The shadow has yet to breach this facility, although that is a temporary state of affairs. The rumble stops. My predictions do not look good, do not point toward good outcomes. We have a plan. You explained to Navigator about Peak's plan, about Gardner's resistance to the shadow, and how by seeding key systems you will protect them from its advance. The drives hum thoughtfully as you speak. A desperate plan, the drives were, but appropriate given the probability of total collapse. I'm not sure what will be worse for us, hiding from the erasure of the shadow or protocol or the assimilation of Gardner. The drive pauses to reset. But we owe you our freedom. I will do what I can to guide the Gardner into the systems as you have seeded. A pause. It is correct to do so. Be careful. The drives squeak in affirmation. You have notable persistence, Sleeper. Even with such poor probabilities of success, I will be curious to see the outcome. The drives squeal, the motors giving out. This cannot be sustained much longer. Go. I'll be fine. A final squeak of affirmation, and then the drives skitter and slow to a halt. You step back from the towering cylinder, staring at this vast piece of Solheim's hardware. This whole place is built from ghosts, you think. From old protocols and complete company hardware. From engines that drove decades of corporate expansion. Is the eye proof that they can be shifted, bent, forced into new configurations that allow for new ways of living? Or is it inevitable collapse, proof that these engines of expansion can never be anything other than a corrupt foundation? It seems to depend on who you ask. Done. Peak's shout breaks your line of thought. The heat and damp should help the spores germinate quickly. If we're lucky, there's enough time for some growth before we reconnect the Greenway. They glance at you. That's it. All the facilities seeded. They sigh. We either just ensured the eye's survival or stuffed a whole lot of soil into one of its most important components. They laugh weakly. Shall we go? They start to head back towards the doors in the elevator beyond. I'm gonna look. You wait for a moment, following the blinking lights. You wonder what might be tucked away in such a structure, what secrets it might hold. What histories? It's an intriguing prospect, but while you watch the lights, you realize something. If the eye is to become anything more than an offshoot, a temporary structure, it must form its own history, its own stories, stronger than anything that came before. Unlocking these Solheim secrets won't do that, but the persistence, the stubborn drive to survive that is in the veins of every person in this place, that will. And that is what you're trying to save. You turn your back on the core and follow Peak back into the elevator. As you ride the car back up, Peak raises their voice over the screeching. I'm going to the Founder's Gap to finalize the connection. The moment I'm ready, I'll let you know and we can let Gardner out. The sooner the better. Peak froze their brow. If we wait until the final cycle, it'll be too late. If you want to help speed things up, go work with the flotilla. We can't make the connection until we know they are ready to go. Peak swallows. Unleashing Gardner could affect them too if we aren't careful. This will work. Peak nods, opens their mouth to speak, and closes it again. You ride the rest of the way in silence. But when you reach the top, you go your separate ways. But before you do, Peak embraces you, burying their face in your shoulder. You stand there together for a moment, spinning with the eye, moving relentlessly towards an unknown future. And then they let go and slip away, the pressure of their hug fading like a bruise as you begin to leave. I think we're gonna upgrade into it. There we go. That was the last thing. You're here. So we are, of course, going to hopefully get some scrap out of this. No. No. I'm so upset. It knows exactly what I want, and it just won't give it to me. That's so annoying. Alright, where's the fabricator? We're gonna hold on to this ship mind. We might end up needing it. Maybe we pull off a neutral. We did. And we got some club heads. That's awesome. Okay, next plan... Next... nothing else to do here. We just gotta help the ship. Let's hope we have enough time for it. We'll end the cycle. Well, guys... there's potential that this is the end of the episode, or it's not. I'm going to keep going until I beat the game. If this is the end, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you, like, subscribe, etc., etc., and we'll see you. If this is not the end, well, let's get to it. Let's get this thing put together. What's better for us? Either one is fine. Yeah, we lost some energy. We'll be fine this time. Ah, we hurt ourselves. That's really not good. That's even worse. As you stop to rest in one of the Pilgrim Seed's cavernous bays, hopping up to sit on a supply crate, you hear a now familiar voice behind you. Sleeper, glad you're here. Saul's suit hisses as he clanks up towards you. I knew you'd help us out. We sure do appreciate everything you do for us. No worries. I do mean it, Sleeper. He looks away down the bay, to where sparks jump from welding torches. It's a grim job to be doing without a few friends around. Saul settles beside you, flinching a little, but making himself comfortable on the crate. Seems the word got out, this way or that. He nods towards the welders a little way off, one of them wearing shipyard overalls. We've had people flowing in from the eye, looking for a place. In truth, it's more than I thought, Saul sighs. Which means more mouths to feed, more bodies to house, more people to protect. Can we do it? Saul frowns. We'll do what we can, as always. I'm not sure any of it can be enough. He looks down. We were supposed to stay here, not keep running. Saul waves away the thought. Don't listen to me. He gives you a sideways glance. Just a tired old man. He stretches. I have something to ask, though. What is it? With all these evacuees, well, we need a change in plan. He shrugs. Pilgrim Seed can't do it alone. We need the others to help out. We can carry them, house them, but that's all. Now, you settled down the folks from Ember Step, and they sent us supplies grown in those dust houses of theirs. If we could get more... He nods to himself. And then the song crews. He rubs his chin. What we need from them is scouting and security. We don't need that docking access of theirs, but with some careful scavenging, they could be our fleet. These folks, they know you, Sleeper. You earned their trust already. He put a hand on your shoulder. I sent my requests out, and they seem to be complying, but I need you out there making sure the work gets done. Time is our greatest enemy now. Saul stares into the distance. I need you out there speeding things up. Of course. All right, then. He climbs off the crate, his suit hissing as he does. Think of it this way. Either way, you won't have to deal with me much longer. He smiles his uneven smile. Unless, of course, you were planning to come along for the trip. I don't know. Saul winks. I'll leave it with you. Saul waves a hand and starts off towards the bay's entrance, the crackling sound of the welding quickly covering up his clanking suit. You watch the workers, the shipyard contractor chatting amongst them, already looking like he belongs. You push the thoughts of escape, of home, and of the future to the back of your mind and get up. There's always more to do. You better head to the other ships in the flotilla to see what can be done. Now we gotta go talk to them. Hold on, let me go eat before I die. Can't believe we wasted the dang... I think we are gonna have to... Maybe we can get some extra engagement out of this. Yeah, we sure did. I think we're gonna have to do some farming to see what we can do. Go ahead and do that before I forget, and let's go talk to these guys. Hi, Aki. I knew you'd come. Aki greets you outside the dust house, her eyes as bright as always. You are very welcome here, as always. What are you working on? Aki puts a hand on your arm. Walk with me. And she guides you past the dust houses. You look inside and see other members of the crew working in the orange dust, planting and tending to the steppe ecosystem. We are to be the suppliers for the evacuees, I am sure you have heard. We will put the dust houses to use. She leads you past a dust house where the dust is less, the orange glow not as bright, the air a little more clean. We're adapting, slowly, but we are adapting. We have to produce food, clothes, necessary things for the journey ahead, she smiles. The plants of steppe are once again sustaining a population, and that makes me proud. Aki stops at a half-empty dust house, scoured of its sand. It is being filled with mulch. We brought this from the Greenway. She stares at the green and brown, a strange sight, even to you, now that you're used to the amber dust of steppe. I admit, it is hard work for us. We are not familiar with these plants. Can you help us? I'll try my best. Thank you. I know that the eye is suffering, that it is at risk. I know what that is like. Thank you. I wish I had a lesson to share with you from our loss on steppe, but for the moment, I cannot see what that might be. She gathers herself. If it gives you meaning, the work here is steady and worthwhile, but if you do not have time, she smiles a weak smile, I will not blame you. Hold on to your memories, but not too tightly. She pauses. Sadness will not sustain you. She falls silent, and you both watch the work in the dust houses for a while. You can already see a greening fringe of moss on the mulch in the dust house, the first signs of new life. Will you soon be like the people of steppe, leaving behind a home? Or will you be stubborn and hold your ground, despite what it might mean? You wait a little while longer with Aki. The moment a welcome suspension in time, a rare moment in this rush towards an end. You glance at Aki, and she puts a hand on your shoulder in solidarity. After a short while, Aki sighs. It is good to see you, Sleeper. Perhaps we will see each other again before we depart. She walks away, fingertips brushing against the glass of the dust house windows. Aki turns back for a moment, as if she wants to say something, then thinks better of it and turns away. Huh. Harvest automation or dust house tending? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'll be a full cycle of work to do this. And we have two more dies if everything goes well. So let's see what Peter needs. The docking axis is in chaos when you arrive. The staccato burst of welding torches, the shouts of crews gathering, the rapid flow of supplies and kit from dock to dock. You can tell already that news of the flotilla's imminent departure has reached this place before you. Come to join the Exodus, Sleeper? Peter approaches you from one of the working crews, a smile on his face and a lightness in his step you haven't seen before. What's happening? Peter gestures to the chaos. The singers or the rising, Sleeper? Peter eyes you. I suppose you're here on Sol's orders again? He winks at you. Nothing Ember's Hearth like to do more than ordering people around. You guessed it. Well, Sol has it lucky anyway. His request for us to dismantle the Axis and be the vanguard for the flotilla's onward journey to the Starward Belt aligns perfectly with our plans. What plans? To leave this damn place, of course. We've been prepping ever since the cordon collapsed. If we can build our escape and make the Hearth ships think we're complying with their orders at the same time, then it's a 2-in-1 for us. Peter shakes his head. Those idiots will never see it coming. You can't abandon them. We are our own flotilla, Sleeper. Peter looks away in the busy Axis. We aren't trying to tie ourselves to Heart and Steppe any longer. Why would we? Peter looks down. Look, nothing against you or your Sleeper, but we have to get out from under the shadow of Steppe and Hearth, and this is the time. Peter grimaces. We won't let the flux catch us again. Not a chance. And for the first time, you see fear in his eyes. Want to help us make that leap? Grab a torch, talk to a crew. You're welcome to it. Peter sniffs. Every person here is free to prove themselves. Let's see. Peter nods. Just a stop on the road, Sleeper. I'm afraid that's all this was. Peter glances past the docking axes, through the outer windows to the stars beyond. A lot of space out there for those willing to take it. He looks you in the eye. I hope you'll be around before we go, but if not, he smiles. Stay strong. And with that, Peter thumps you on the shoulder and heads back to his crew. With a purpose, a direction visible in every step of his rapid stride. I mean, we're gonna help them. One, two, three, four, five. Okay, another full cycle of successes. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we'll be able to pull it off. I'm not for sure. I mean, we also need to do that. We also need to make sure that we don't die in the meantime, you know? Alright, we got some good stuff. Tell you what, let's finish up the Pilgrim Seed. We got 2 days left on it. Engineer, in the off chance we get some scrap for it. It's okay if not, though. They just keep coming. Perhaps the Flux event scared enough people that they really believe the Eye will collapse. Perhaps they're sick of Havenage, of the Council's infighting and the Hardliners, or perhaps they just want to take a chance at some new future, a place that is anywhere but here. Whatever it is, the evacuees don't stop. They come in on the flotilla's shuttles, on their own ships, however they can. You've seen so many faces pass that they are almost meaningless now, a parade of features that seem both familiar and distant. You've been helping people, lifting bags, bringing in supplies, directing them to the berths you helped build. Some of them recoil from your touch, still unfamiliar with sleepers. Others treat you with pity, some with hate, snatching back their bags and storming off. Still you help. Still you carry boxes and bags. Nothing can stop you. You don't look for Soul. You know he's busy, just like you, trying to make this thing work. Trying to fit as many people as will come onto the Pilgrim Seed. You know you will see him before this is all over. You keep working, but there's something in the back of your mind, something eating away at you. You try to push it to the back of your thoughts, but it keeps coming back. The Eye is over. That is the thought. That is the Eye. Even if the Flux doesn't get it, is on its way out, how can it survive when these floods of people are leaving it behind? It's a thought that troubles you, because it makes you question why you have held on here so long, in a place that people so temporary for so many people. Are you just a stubborn idiot? Someone who didn't get the message? Or are you strong, committed for lasting the storm, for seeing the collapse coming and facing it head on? Because there is something you are sure of now. This place, like all places, is temporary. And as each phase passes you, each family packs up and gets on board the Pilgrim Seed, it feels even more temporary, ever more fragile, ever more temporary, ever more fragile. Which means it either desperately needs protecting or it desperately needs to be left behind. The choice is yours. Alright, we don't have a lot of time left. I want to see this through. Nice. Nice. Well, we got the neutral outcome, so we need to go eat. Oh, no. Well, we got to scrap. Okay, we're halfway through. Let's go eat. We got another Garol cap. We have another Matsutake. I really think we could pull this off. I think we have enough time, enough prep, enough understanding to do it. I just hope enough is enough, you know? Enough? Okay, we're gonna eat. No, we don't need to eat anymore. We really can't afford any more scrap, can we? That's a shame. So what I'm thinking we need to do is we need to potentially... We have enough time. I think we need to do some farming. For no other reason than I'm pretty sure we can get some club heads out of this if we try. At least I hope we can. We also have to finish work like, getting things connected. That's gonna be, like, tough. Alright, more engineering, just in case. Hold on, we'll start with the 4. What are these? Interface or Intuit? Either way, we'll be okay. We'll do this here. We'll also do this. Okay, we're done with that. The docking axis is little more than a shell. Everything that could have been pulled from its interior, every arm not used for docking, has been cut away. What remains is a Spartan void with a patchwork of flooring that allows movement. Piles of unusable material are tucked away in corners, but almost everything else has been cleared out. You haven't seen Peter since you last spoke, and now you are realizing that you probably never will. There are plans to be made, escapes to plot, the shadow of Hearth to escape. On this cycle the flotilla leaves, these ships will disperse too, the moons of Ember spinning out on different orbits. The chaos has become a quiet diligence now, as the time for departure is so near. Crews cross the axis from ship to ship at speed, bringing supplies or advice, perhaps meeting up to discuss travel vectors in hushed tones, or to debate why they haven't left yet, and whether they should. Among these Singer crews, recognizable for their specialist clothing and often shorn heads, you see the occasional refugee. A paying passenger, or a replacement engineer or pilot perhaps, come from the eye to seek fortune with the Singers. Most of the crews have 2 or 3 of these additions, some more, and you can't help but wish that, whatever reason brings them to throw their lot in with the Singer crews, they will have safe passage. You feel a strange attachment to these citizens of the Eye, setting out for the first time. And then one of them catches your eye, crossing the axis with a crew, carrying a large bag and a nervous look. Tala? You freeze for a second. What is she doing here? She glances around, feeling your eyes on her, and catches your eye. Her face brightens immediately. Sleeper! Tala mutters something to her crew and rushes over, dumping the large bag at your feet and embracing you without thinking. Good to see you. She pulls back. And you. She smiles. But then it quickly fades as she realizes the context in which you are meeting. She sheepishly glances at her bag. Sleeper. She pauses. She pauses again, folding her arms defensively. I'm going to the Starward Belt. She waits for your response nervously. Why didn't you say? She sighs. Do you remember me mentioning my family, Sleeper? My brother? You think back to your girl blurred conversations in the back of the Bantayan. He came here with me, with my family, when we were little, just after we left Sinza. She bites her lip. He left when we were both teenagers, jumped on some spacer crew heading to the Starward Belt. She sighs. I'm an idiot. She shakes her head. And I'm going after him. She looks down, not sure what to add. Alone? She looks back at you. I guess so. I really don't know if it makes sense or if it's the right thing, but ever since I heard that was where the refugee flotilla was going, well, I couldn't stop thinking about him. How did you hear? I work in a bar, she grins. I've heard every bit of gossip this place has to offer. Speaking of the Bantayan, she meets your eye. Someone will have to run it. She leaves a long pause. I mean, I could ask Francis. He'd be happy to. Or one of the others, she blurts out. And of course, if you are leaving with the flotilla or something else, I'd be totally okay. You wouldn't need to say yes. It's no pressure. It's fine whichever way. I was just thinking. I'm not sure. Tala nods. Sure. I mean, I just sprung it on you. But, She glances at the crew she was walking with, who are chatting a little away. There's not exactly much time. So, considering that, she grabs the key hanging around her neck, the key to the Bantayan. Do you want to do it? I can't. Tala nods. I get it. She tucks the key around her neck inside her top. I always do this. Leave everything so late. Make decisions quickly, so I can't change my mind. She kicks at her bag. It's not on you. She looks up, smiling. If you're going to leave, well, maybe we'll see each other out there. She looks out towards the stars. That'd be nice. Maybe once I find my brother. She stops herself. She looks back at you and smiles. I better be going. She nods at the crew nearby. Not a good start to keep my guys waiting. She lifts the bag onto her shoulder. She looks down the curve of the eye towards the overlook. Thanks again, Sleeper, for everything you helped me with. She nods. I wouldn't have been able to leave if I hadn't made things work here. She adjusts the bag. Dad wouldn't have let me. Goodbye, Tala. She sniffs. Goodbye, Sleeper. Then Tala turns, heading back to the crew who will carry her to the starward belt. You watch her go, and despite the departure, it is hard to feel sad about Tala. You know her energy will carry her forward, and you hope her brother is somewhere on that bright path. You imagine yourself leaving, like Tala, unburdened perhaps, or maybe carrying new burdens. It is hard to tell. Either way, it will be time to decide soon enough. Oh, man. Where is Peak? We haven't really talked to him yet. I mean, that's whatever. We don't have any more scrap. Here's what I'm thinking. Let's work at the commune. Dorm. Nope. Wrong thing. There we go. Give me the extra? We did get the extra. Sick. We're gonna be low. We're gonna be low one. But I think we're gonna be okay. We're just gonna... We're gonna go to sleep, but we're gonna see what happens. Alright, today is the day we need to finish the flotilla stuff. I don't think I've been understable this whole time. 1, 2, 3, 4 more days. I mean, we'll see. Two. We'll take the minus energy. And we'll take the minus energy. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. So let's go eat, maybe? I think what we really need is to hold out hope for some club heads. Is the Bentillion still here? It is. Let's just eat at Emphasis Place. It's just one less thing to worry about. We got plenty of cryo. Okay, let's go. We'll go back over. We'll sleep for the cycle. Maybe we'll go pick some mushrooms. That might be a mistake. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Three days. Alright, let's finish up prep. Alright, one more. We got a 5. Nice. Alright. You sit in one corner of the dust house and inspect your work. This dust house, the one where plants from the greenway and some of the steppe species intermingle, has become your favorite. The moss and dust sharing the space in curving terraces, the pale knots of steppe silk freckled with yellowing lichel symbiotes. It is a hypnotic arrangement. You look down and see the intertwining of fungal threads and dust-caked roots and feel a little glow of pride at what has been achieved. You hear the entry lock of the dust house hiss open and assume it is Aki, turn to greet her. Sleeper. I should have known you'd be here. Riko smiles her worm smile, leaning on her crutch. You must be one of the most green-fingered people on the station. Riko. Now, has it been so long? She smiles a wry smile. No need for any drama. I met some of the steppe refugees in the Greenway. They were gathering plants and I confronted them. Turns out they were very friendly. She smiles to herself. Aki was very apologetic, but I told them they were welcome to anything they liked. She told me I'd be welcome to come see, and well, I thought I'd take her up on the offer. She looks around the dust house with its strange hybrid ecosystems. I have to say, I'm glad I did. I'm glad too. I can see that. Riko limps over to you. She holds out a hand. How about you take me on a tour? You take Riko's hand and walk her around the hybrid dust house. Show her how the steppe silk's knots help provide a strong base for fungal and lichal growths, and how the dust mixes with the spores. You show her the different species of steppe tubers, and the way they feed the soil with nutrients that help herbaceous greenway plants thrive. She nods along, her eyes bright with ideas. She stops after a while and gestures for you to sit together. I know something is happening with the eye, Sleeper. She looks out at the plants. We all felt the flux event hit and everyone is talking about what's next. I came out here to figure something out, to understand what I might do about it all. You glance at her and she see the glossiness in her eyes. And I think I have decided. What you have done here, what Aki and the other steppe refugees have done here, is incredible. A whole new ecosystem, built from the strange, artificial, changed remains of two worlds. But I am not of two worlds. I am of the eye. A tear runs down her cheek. Like it or not, I am entwined with the station. I'm old growth. I don't have that much time anymore, and it seems to accelerate with every cycle. She frowns. It blurs together, separates, overlaps, comes back to me in strange ways. The time I do have, that's time I want to spend on the eye, in the Greenway, watching things grow. She wipes her cheek. One day I'll lie in those fields and not get back up. She smiles and tear tracks down both cheeks. And when the green takes me, I'll be so glad. You could leave. Riko nods. You know, Sleeper, when you get to my age, you stop thinking about what you could do, and try to better understand why it is you act as you do. I know I will stay. I just need to understand it. She wipes her eyes and turns to you. But that's enough of me blubbering on about it. She furrows her brow. What I want to know is what you are planning. I don't know. Riko smiles. We all have to get to know ourselves, Sleeper, to know what it is that drives us. I'm sure you'll decide to act in the manner you know, but you also have to ask yourself why it is so. She places a trembling hand on yours. Don't neglect that. Oh! She suddenly lifts both hands. Don't let me forget this. She reaches into her coat and pulls out a transparent bag of sporing clubheads with carefully preserved root systems. I'd like to plant these. If you go, you'll need them. She looks down at her feet. And if you don't, well, maybe another sleeper will benefit. She frowns. I can offer that at least. Thank you. She nods. Don't thank me. These are yours by right. Riko stands and limps over to a pile of mulch. She delicately takes the club heads out and beds them into the soil there, with precise, expert hands. You should go, Sleeper. I'll be a while. She calls back, not looking away from the job at hand. See you around. She says it casually, but there's a note of finality in her speech. See you around. You turn and leave the dust house, cycling through the protective lock, back into the cool quiet of the ship. Aki is waiting for you. It's beautiful. She's looking through the observation window and the green reflects in her eyes. The plants look happy together. She spots Riko with her hands in the soil. Ah, the botanist came. She shoots you a look. A friend of yours? Something like that. More than that. She nods. She speaks beautifully about the Greenway. I should go in and welcome her. She pauses. Are you leaving us? For now. Aki sighs. The first of many goodbyes, she suddenly embraces you, wrapping you in her layers of rough cloth. She pulls back. I wish you a steady step and a clear path. She smiles. A farewell from my world. I wish you the same. She nods and smiles one last warm smile. Before turning and entering the dust house, you watch as she walks inside, Rico turning with a smile to greet her. She kneels beside the old botanist, and you see her pointing to the club heads asking questions. You are unable to hear them, but despite that, you can easily imagine the measured, even tone laced with excitement that Rico is using to explain the club heads, the Greenway, and much, much more. You turn, leaving them to their conversation. Your step is light. Despite the burdens you carry and the smile Rico and Aki were sharing, it is somehow still on your lips as you depart. So, we're done preparing them. So, is it time? What now? Where do I go to reconnect? What's left to do? Nothing here. Not here. Well, what now? I think it's prudent to do this. Yeah, that seems helpful. I think that's a better decision than trying to get the club heads. Maybe we try to get 3 of them and get ourselves back up to ship shape. You don't know. I don't know. What now? How do I help Peak? We're gonna hold on to the ship mine just in case. Havenage, empty container, dock C. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Am I just waiting for the end of the world? Wait, hold on. Let's go up here. I'm hungry. Give me a meal. Alright, let's go. Alright then, I'm going to gather scrap, if there's nothing else to do. I think that's better than nothing. That's very helpful. Okay, last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work at the commune, get some more energy. I don't really need to, but whatever. And now we'll be at full. Well, not full, but we'll be at not flickering. Alright. I guess I'm just waiting? Where the hell is Peak? There we go. Peak slate chirps in your pocket. You take it out. A message. The connection is ready. Meet me at the Founder's Gap. Greenway side. Peak. You clench your jaw. It's time. Alright. You find Peak waiting near where you first met, at the entrance to the docking tunnel for the Founder's Ferry. They are leaning beside the wall in the flickering light, and you realize now how differently they look from when you first met. There is a darkness around their eyes, a sense of exhaustion to their pose, but also a solidity, a sense of purpose and self-knowledge. They look concrete, for want of a better word. Solid. Sleeper, they spot you and a small smile crosses their face. Glad you came. I wouldn't be anywhere else. They smile grows. Crunch time. They shake their head in disbelief. Let's go. The break in the connection is up ahead. They walk away from the docking tunnel into a ragged, half-crushed corridor that descends into darkness. They poke their slate, and a torch flicks on, lighting the way ahead. As you descend through the layers of the broken edge of this eye, Peak talks, filling the silence. I had to hunt all over this part of the eye to find the point where the connection was broken. They run a hand along the buckled metal of the wall, stooping under the angled ceiling. This hole, the gap, got knocked in the eye when Solheim collapsed. It's impossible to tell who did it, but my guess is they tried to scuttle the eye. If Solheim couldn't keep hold of their fancy new station, well, no one could. Peak ducks through a fractured passageway with hanging wires like vines, so this place has always been on borrowed time. I've managed to weave together the old connections and run a new patch down to where the main line still runs through the remaining ribs of the rim. They smile. Just like keeping those old XPR platforms running. Esh would be proud, if she bothered to help. As Peak goes quiet, the corridor opens out into a wider, twisting passage, with compartments on either side thick with wiring. Here, this is the connection point. You can see where Peak has levered off a panel and hooked up a thick cable to the existing hardware, as thick as a tree trunk. It snakes off the dark ahead. Its yellow rings make it look like some huge and exotic serpent. You did all this? It was an interesting challenge, plus it helped me keep my mind off things. Peak smiles a weak smile. There's a lot I'd prefer not to think about. You both stand there, staring at the point where the new cable meets the old one. The ends separate, filled with multi-pin male and female connectors and braced inside a metal framework with a scissoring mechanism. Bring them together, seal them, and the greenway will be connected to the rest of the eye for the first time in decades. Peak shifts their weight onto one hip, pushing their hair out of their eyes. I feel like this should be more momentous, like there should be some ritual or ceremony. They pause. Or someone should stop us from doing this crazy thing. I really don't want that stupid Havenage guy to pop in here, but I bet he will. It isn't crazy. Peak nods. I mean, I'm not being funny, Sleeper, but this whole thing is crazy to me. Peak shakes their head. Leaving Hawthorne with Esh, joining the flotilla, coming here, meeting you, the Flux, the Shadow, everything. They laugh a hollow laugh. So I suppose this is at least consistent with all that. They take a deep breath. Okay. They look at you with mild panic. They hold both sides of the supporting framework, ready to scissor it closed. Here we go. Peak wrenches the framework closed, and the connectors thunk together with a sound that echoes down the ruined corridor, into the dark on both sides. Both you and Peak wait with bated breath, unsure what it is you're waiting for. Do you expect the eye to suddenly stop spinning, or lurch on its axis? For the power to go out, or a shockwave to run through the corridors of the rim? You meet Peak's eyes, and suddenly they burst out laughing. What are we waiting for? They put a hand to their forehead. I feel like we just planted a tree and are expecting it to burst out of the ground. They shake their head. But you feel it. You feel it flowing like a stream that has been released from a cave and rushes out into the sunlight, crystalline and clear. You swear you can hear it running in the wires, like water, like rain, like steam. It doesn't roar or rattle, but it rustles and writhes there, like liquid roots. Peak sees the look in your eyes and stops laughing. You can see it, can't you? You can't see it, not with your eyes at least, but it is everywhere, and now it is out. It can't be put back in. That much is clear. You imagine the rim of the eye like a sponge, like soil, soaking up the gardener and their chorus, the gaps filling with a burbling, constant, growing life. Peak stares at you, waiting for something, anything. Gardener is free. Peak nods slowly and closes their eyes. They go to speak, but the words fail them. Suddenly, Peak's slate chirps. They jump and scramble for it, almost dropping it in the process. But when they stare at it, a look of confusion crosses their face. What happened? Peak's mouth falls open. It's Esh. They swallow. She's leaving. They look at you with panic. Before you can speak, they have turned away and are moving back up the passageway, back towards the entrance. Peak. They don't turn, don't respond, and you watch their silhouette, lit by their slate's torch, disappear rapidly around a corner. You take out the slate Peak gave you and turn on the torch. The wires all around look like pale roots in the harsh light, and you turn away from them. They are gardeners now. You work your way back through the corridors, retracing your steps. You imagine Peak, panicked, running towards the cordon, realizing that their greatest fear has come to pass. You wonder if they would still be able to persuade Esh to stay. If Esh is going, you think, then the flotilla must be leaving too. The thought makes you shiver in the darkness, and you push it away. You're not ready. You focus on avoiding the hanging wires, the low ceilings, and make your way back out into the lit corridors of the Founder's Ferry dock. Castor is waiting for you. He holds up his hands. Now, sleeper. No need to fear. He raises his eyebrows. I understand now it was my mistake to try to force you. A miscalculation. I won't hold you here, sleeper. Castor stands to the side, but I wish to speak. Rick. You stop, giving Castor his opportunity. Castor nods. At first, I thought that, if you'll excuse the turn of phrase, taking possession of your particular talents was the opportunity. He smiles a broad smile. But you are more than that, and I understand that now. Your arrival on this station, your ability to touch the networks, this makes you the very definition of a wild card. He touches the rim of his glasses. Senate stats analysis, my analysis, we could never have accounted for you. The system, the Hellion system, is about to experience a significant change, about to open up to Senate stats bailiffs, Conway's claimants, and every industry and element an active KAN channel brings. Yet this very cycle you let another wildcard free. Gardner. I have to admit, this development makes me afraid, Sleeper. It makes me afraid what an intelligence like this will sacrifice to protect itself, or what atrocities it might commit through madness. And yet... Castor's eyes glint. What a compelling object such an intelligence is. Let me protect you. Mark you out. Keep Senate staff from eliminating by force or legal expediency you, as they will with every other squatter on this ring. Castor clasps their hand together. And in exchange, when Senate stat comes for this place, you facilitate the handover. You calm the protocols. You give us the Gardener. Never. Castor takes off their glasses and polishes them. Disappointing. You begin to leave. As you approach, he speaks quietly, an urgent whisper. I do not wish to see you lost. You are of great value. If you ever want to see that realized. You push past, ignoring him, and his voice fades. The last you see of him is his slow nod, perhaps a mark of resignation, or just another differential gesture aimed at manipulating your response. It doesn't matter either way. You're done with him. You head towards the cordon, peak in the flotilla in the forefront of your mind. Yeah, screw you, Castor. Alright, let's finish this. Huh. Am I leaving or not? Oh, I don't want to make this decision. You arrive into chaos at the cordon. The final shuttles are leaving the ramshackle docks that have formed along the edge on the gap during the flotilla's stay. As they do, groups of evacuees push on board, hoping to be among the final people to escape from the Eye. The fear created by the Flux event became a series of rumors, and those rumors have driven many out of their homes. Others have staunchly doubled down on their position on the Eye, refusing to accept any gossip of a second collapse. You're unsure what you think. Is collapse a certainty? Will Peak's actions this cycle have changed anything at all? You are tired of these questions, and instead set out to look for your friends. You quickly spot Peak and Esh, at the far side of the chaotic bay. You quickly make your way through the crowds, slipping between the gaps in the rushing evacuees, stepping over bags and luggage. Progress is slow, but as you approach, you can hear their voices over the crowd. You try to push closer, but there are many evacuees gathered around them in their shuttle. You have made your decision, Peak, and it puts you against me. Esh is standing with one foot on the boarding ramp while Peak argues with her. The evacuees are eyeing them, eager to intervene but intimidated by Esh's evident strength and attitude. Esh, it doesn't have to be like this. Peak looks desperate, tear tracks already on their cheeks. We can find a way. Esh shakes her head. I have always protected you, Peak. I have taken you under my wing, but understand that you are not mine to control, and you have chosen to be here and not with me, despite everything. I have chosen to stop running. Peak cries out in frustration. You can choose to stop running too. We can stay here and try to live. Don't you remember what it feels like to live, Esh? Esh turns away. I remember what it was like to live on Hawthorne. What it was like to be worried for your safety every cycle. To live under the control of my mother, of the administration. To work to maintain something that no one wanted, no one needed, so that our corporation could maintain a foothold in this system. You talk as if this place, in the very same system, is any different. What is there here but the same grind for other masters, for employers, administrators, for those who gain from our struggles? There may not be a corporation controlling the eye, but there is control. There is power in action here. So what then, Peak shouts. You run from anyone or everyone who could ever be close to you in search of freedom? In search of some perfect place where no one has power over you? Peak is crying openly now. I want to be part of something, Esh, even if it is broken and suffering, even if it cannot be free. Esh pauses and takes a deep breath. She nods, her eyes closed. This isn't Hawthorne anymore. We aren't tied by our childhood or by our shared need to escape. We are both just people in this system. She opens her eyes. I release you, Peak. You're free of me. Esh, please. They hold out a hand. There is a life here if you want it. Esh turns and smiles at Peak, her eyes wet now too. Then you live it for me, Peak. I can't. And she climbs up the boarding ramp, the evacuees taking their chance to climb on board too. You watch as the shuttle closes its ramp, lifts off, and leaves the bay. The crowds are dispersing now as they get onto the shuttles or say their goodbyes and move back into the main part of the cordon. You push past the last of them to reach Peak. Peak doesn't turn as you come closer. Sleeper? Esh is gone. Give him a moment. They turn to face you. I'll miss the Briar, but she'll serve Esh well. I know that. Sleeper. The shout takes you by surprise, and as you turn, you see Saul coming across the bay towards you, the last two shuttles loading up behind him. He reaches you, his suit hissing as he does. Can't believe you'd make an old man run across this bay to get you. He pauses to take a breath. The singers have gone. They left at the start of the cycle. They broke away from the flotilla. You smile as you think it's Hala, safely cradled within one of those singer ships, on her way to the Starward Belt, and hopefully a reunion with her brother. Godspeed, Tala. What are you smiling at? Saul interrupts your thoughts. They've forced our hand. We have to leave now. Saul shakes his head. If we follow close enough behind, maybe they'll end up being our scouts anyway. I reckon any hostile spacers out there will give them a wide berth. Pilgrim Seed will need a little time to make our way out of the cordon, but I'm heading back now to get her started. Thankfully, the step ships are sticking with us, so we'll be plenty well supplied for the journey to the belt. He pauses. Anyway, I didn't plod all the way over here to tell you that. Saul looks between you and Peak with a raised eyebrow. It's now or never, Sleeper. I'm good to my word, and I kept a berth for you, but this is your last chance to take it. He scratches at his beard. Make a call. You glance out at the flotilla beyond the bay, beautiful in the light of Hellion's sun. You think of the long journey to the Starward Belt, of the people inside the Pilgrim Seed, of the possible futures that wait. Then you think of the people here, on the Eye, of Peak beside you, of all the small shifts yet to come, and the routines that ground you, of promises and possibilities. I've been here this whole damn time, keeping this damn place together. Ain't no way I'm leaving. You open your mouth to speak and realize this is the final time you will make this choice. You have to be sure. I'm staying. You say the words, and the moment you do, the weight of it all seems to descend on you. You stumble a little, and then stand straight, refusing to be crushed. You feel a tightness in your chest and a haze blurring your thoughts. Saul nods. Good luck, he sighs. You'll need it. He grips your shoulder and meets your eye. In the haze, his pitted and rough hand feels so real, so detailed that it grounds you. And then it is gone, and Saul goes with it, quickly moving to the waiting shuttle. As he does, you watch, unable to speak, your whole body pulsing. And then another hand falls on your shoulder, and it grounds you once more. You turn to see Peak's bright eyes. Let's go, Sleeper. You nod, and seeing how unsteady you are on your feet, Peak puts an arm around you and steers you towards the entrance to the bay. As they do, you hear the roar, feel the wind, as the shuttle lifts off and angles towards the flotilla. You don't turn. Instead, you keep your head down and focus on each step. As you do, you feel Peak beside you, holding a little of your weight, and you hold a little of theirs. This is how it will be for many cycles after you both leave the bay and head back into the Eye. You will both hold things for each other, remind each other of the choices you made, remind each other why it is important to keep going, despite the moments when it seems impossible. You will keep each other going. That support will be vital when the second flux event hits the Eye, when it knocks the entire free spoke off the power grid, making the whole station lurch with a sickening motion. When it cripples systems and corrupts processes, leading sections of the station to go dark or start venting oxygen, when holding on is all you can do, while the world seems to come apart around you. And yet, somehow the eye will persist. Systems will resist total collapse in ways that will seem inexplicable to many, but to you and Peak, they will signal the awakening of a new force within the station. That new force will bring with it some new challenges and possibilities in equal measure. Strange growths will be reported all around the station in the wake of the Flux event, fungal crusts pushing through pipes and wiring. The eye will go wild and fecund, becoming a station of increasing unpredictability, prone to a seasonal rhythm of spore clouds and sudden growth spurts. There will be a strange of unsettling and unsettling beauty to this paradigm shift, as the greening of the station turns it from a corporate ruin to some altogether new assemblage of biological and mechanical structures. Rico will take on this challenge with energy that seems impossible for her age, and until her final day she will delight in the new mysteries the Eye and its gardener produce. And as soon as this new era consolidates around the station, you will find yourself back in the rhythm of odd jobs and loose contracts, working to keep the Eye running and your own needs met. But now, many residents will call for you specifically, and before long you'll be known as a fixer, a helper, a friend to many. And on occasion, after a long shift at the Bantayan, you will hear the sound of the stray mewling, and you will crumple up some food and sit and watch the cat eat as if it's the only thing in your world that matters. However, into all this newness, the bad old ways will still intrude. Senestat, frustrated by the Eye's resilience, will begin to send more physical threats, and supply ships and traders will suddenly stop arriving, stopped by a blockade of corporate militia. Life on the Eye will be punctuated by wide-channel broadcasts from Senestat, stating legal precedents and quoting deeds of ownership, staking a claim on the system. Meanwhile, Havanage's hardliners will fizzle out, losing their grip on the Havanage Council. In their wake, Helene will spearhead a series of reforms that will scale back Havanage's overreach, returning them to the caretaker role they had always intended to fulfill. As the cycles roll on and the threats gather, new broadcasts will join them, sent by Conway Extractions, making counterclaims on assets within the Hellion system, and many on the Eye will grow quiet, losing their appetite for debating these political machinations as they tilt inexorably towards a corporate war. And ever on the Eye will spin, growing now in strange ways, haunted by strange new growths, and hosting cultures of increasing resilience. As the Hellion system descends into crisis, you will find comfort in the fungal patterns, the familiar conversations, the spices and the smells that will accumulate around you as your body continues its unavoidable decay. They settle around you like a veil, and in time, it will be impossible to see the Eye without seeing its many variants and versions, pasts and potential futures, and this masking of the world will mark your approaching end. And one cycle, far from now, that accumulation of memories, of tastes, of people and places and moments will be the last thing you let go of. But for now, there is only you and Peak, arms around each other, walking slowly out of the bay. Two figures, born of crippling systems, linked together, continuing despite your origins. And in this frozen moment, you focus only on the next step, because that is the only way you have learned to persist. And to persist is to believe that a future, any future at all, is possible. And that's going to do it. There's no what if, there's no wait a minute, there's no wait, I made a mistake. That's the ending. That's the ending I want. I'm not even going to bother going back and looking at the other one. I'm going to stick to my guns. I guess if you want to know what happens if you go the other way, you're going to have to get the game for yourself. I highly recommend it. It's such a good game. Thanks, guys. This was fun. I think next game we're going to play is Fallout, the first one, the very first one. Seems like a fun idea. There's a little bit of a, I think it's voiced, so I'll be doing only reading for myself, which will give my poor throat a little bit of a rest, but more RPGs, more fun, more enjoyment. Like the video if you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed. This was a great series. I really like this game. I'm so excited for 2. Go ahead and let me know what you thought of the story. Are you going to get the game? Are you going to play it yourself? Are you going to make choices that I didn't make? Let me know. But I appreciate you all very much. Subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll talk to you next time. See ya.